The bride didn't carry a wedding bouquet. She carried a dagger hidden under her dress. Seraphina Vale walked down the aisle as if she were walking into her own grave. The groom, Cassian Moretti, a mafia boss even the FBI wouldn't dare touch. Her brother's debt? $3 million. Her price? A lifetime as a hostage. But when he lifted her veil, that look wasn't lust. It was fear. Because Seraphina's face was identical to the woman who disappeared after the night his father was assassinated 26 years earlier. And from that moment, this forced marriage became a deadly trap from which no one could escape. Follow the story to the end, like, and comment the city you're watching to let me know how far this story has progressed. Rain didn't just fall on Chicago that night. It attacked. Fat drops hammered the stained glass like bullets trying to punch through colored saints and angels, turning the ceremony hall into a drum of violence. Seraphina Vale stood at the back of the aisle in a white dress that cost more than her childhood apartment, feeling sweat slide down her spine, despite the November cold leaking through every crack in the old building. Her brother Luca stood beside her, gripping her elbow hard enough to leave marks. His breath smelled like whiskey and desperation. "You walk," he hissed into her ear. "You smile. You say the words. You don't make this harder than it already is." Seraphina didn't look at him. Couldn't. If she turned her head and saw the man who raised her after their parents died, the man who taught her to ride a bike and slip-punch neighborhood bullies, begging her to save his worthless skin, she might actually kill him before Moretti's men got the chance. $3 million, she said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. She'd cried herself empty 2 days ago. Now there was just a cold, hollow space where fear used to live. You gambled away $3 million you didn't have, and your solution was to sell me like a used car. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Luca? He didn't answer. The organ music started instead, some slow, mournful piece that sounded like a funeral march. Appropriate. Seraphina clutched the bouquet of white roses someone had shoved into her hands. The thorns bit through the silk wrap. She welcomed the pain. At least it was real. The aisle stretched ahead like a corridor in a nightmare. On both sides stood men in expensive suits with dead eyes and bulges under their jackets that weren't cell phones. No friends, no family, just witnesses to a transaction dressed up as a wedding ceremony. And at the end of that aisle, waiting at the altar like a reaper in Italian tailoring, stood Cassian Moretti. Seraphina had only seen him once before, 3 days ago, when Luca dragged her to some warehouse on the south side to negotiate terms. She'd sat in a metal chair under fluorescent lights while men discussed her like she was livestock. Moretti hadn't said much. He just watched her with those flat, dark eyes that seemed to calculate the exact weight of a human soul. He looked different now. Same black suit, same face carved from granite and controlled violence, but something flickered beneath the surface. Something almost human. Almost. Seraphina's heels clicked against marble. Each step echoed like a countdown. The men lining the aisle tracked her movement with the focused attention of predators sizing up prey. She kept her chin up, her spine straight. They could own her body. The legal papers said so. But they couldn't have her fear. Not for free. 10 steps from the altar, Cassian's second-in-command leaned in and whispered something. Moretti's jaw tightened. His gaze locked onto Seraphina with sudden, sharp intensity. 5 steps. Her heart hammered so hard she thought her ribs might crack. 3 steps. Luca released her elbow and stepped back, his part in the betrayal complete. 2 steps. Cassian's hand moved to his jacket. For one insane second, Seraphina thought he was reaching for a gun. 1 step. She stopped directly in front of him. Up close, Moretti was taller than she remembered, broader. The kind of man who didn't need weapons because he was one. A thin scar cut through his left eyebrow. Pale and old. His hands were clean, manicured, but the knuckles carried the ghost of old violence. The officiant cleared his throat. Some bought priest, who probably laundered money on weekdays and performed mob weddings on Saturdays. He started reading from a small book, words about love and commitment that turned Seraphina's stomach. Then Moretti lifted the veil. His hand moved slowly, almost carefully, like he was diffusing a bomb. The sheer fabric rose over Seraphina's face, and for the first time they stood inches apart with nothing between them. Cassian Moretti went absolutely still. Not the stillness of control, the stillness of shock. His pupils dilated, his breath caught. Actually caught, like someone had punched the air from his lungs. The hand holding her veil trembled, just a fraction, just enough. For 3 full seconds, the most dangerous man in Chicago looked like he'd seen a ghost crawl out of hell and smile at him. "Who are you?" he whispered. The words scraped out rough and raw. Seraphina blinked. "What?" "Your mother." His grip tightened on the veil. "Who was your mother?" Around them, the warehouse chapel had gone silent. Even the rain seemed to pause. Every man in the room tensed, hands drifting toward weapons, waiting for orders that didn't come. "I don't—" Seraphina's throat closed. "I don't remember her. She left when I was a baby." "Her name?" "I don't know. My father never— Your father's name then?" "Daniel Vale. He died when I was 16. Something cracked behind Cassian's eyes. Some dam of control that had held for decades finally giving way. He released the veil and grabbed her wrist instead, pulling her close enough that she could smell expensive cologne mixed with something darker. Gun oil, leather, violence. "Marco," he snapped over his shoulder. "Get the photos." The second-in-command hesitated. "Boss, the ceremony? Now." Marco disappeared through a side door. The officiant stood frozen with his little book half open, clearly wondering if he was about to witness a murder. Luca had backed all the way to the wall, his face the color of old cheese. Seraphina tried to pull her wrist free. Moretti's grip didn't budge. "You're hurting me," she said flatly. He looked down at his hand like it belonged to someone else, then released her so fast she stumbled. "Don't move." "Or what? You'll kill me before the wedding night?" The ghost of something that might have been humor flickered across his face. "You've got a mouth on you." "It's all I've got left." "Not true." His gaze swept over her, clinical and assessing. "You've got her face." Before Seraphina could ask what the hell that meant, Marco returned carrying a manila folder. He handed it to Cassian like he was passing over a live grenade. Moretti opened the folder, pulled out a photograph, stared at it for a long moment, then turned it around so Seraphina could see. The woman in the photo was young, maybe 30. Dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, high cheekbones, full mouth, eyes like warm honey catching light. Seraphina's heart stopped. It was her face. Not similar, not kind of close. Her face, 20-some years younger and worn by a different life, but the bone structure, the angle of the jaw, the exact shape of the mouth, all identical. "Her name was Celeste Navarro," Cassian said quietly. His voice had gone flat again, emotions locked back down. "She worked for my father as a financial consultant. The night he was murdered, she was the only witness, and before anyone could question her, she vanished." Seraphina couldn't stop staring at the photograph. "I don't understand." "Neither do I." He took the photo back, sliding it carefully into the folder like it was made of glass. "But I'm going to." He turned to the officiant. "Finish it." The priest blinked. Of course. Do you, Cassian Moretti, take—" "Yes, get to her part." The man's hand shook as he flipped pages. "Do you, Seraphina Vale, take this man—" "She says yes," Cassian interrupted. "Ring." Marco produced 2 bands from his pocket. Simple platinum circles. Cassian shoved one onto Seraphina's finger without ceremony, then held out his own hand. She stood there, brain still frozen on the photograph, until he made an impatient sound. "Put the ring on, or I'll do it myself." Her hands moved on autopilot. The band slid over his knuckle, fit perfectly, probably because someone had measured her finger while she slept, which was a horrifying thought she'd deal with later. "You may kiss the—" Cassian grabbed Seraphina's face between both hands and pressed his mouth to hers. It wasn't a kiss. It was a brand. Hard and possessive and over in 3 seconds flat. When he pulled back, his thumb traced her bottom lip with disturbing focus. "Mine now," he murmured. Not to her. To the room. To every man watching. "Anyone touches her, I take their hands. Anyone speaks to her wrong, I take their tongue. Anyone even thinks about using her as leverage, I burn their family to the ground and piss on the ashes. We clear?" A chorus of "Yes, boss" rippled through the chapel. Seraphina's mouth tasted like copper. She'd bitten her lip during the kiss. "I'm not property." "You are now." He released her face and grabbed her hand instead, already pulling her toward the exit. "We're leaving." "Wait." He didn't wait, just hauled her down the aisle like she weighed nothing, past rows of armed men who watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to pity. Luca tried to step forward. One look from Moretti froze him mid-stride. Outside, the rain had turned vicious. Fat drops exploded against marble steps, slick with old leaves and city grime. A black Escalade waited at the curb, engine running. Cassian shoved Seraphina toward it. "Get in. I want to talk to my brother." "Your brother sold you to cover his debts. You don't have a brother anymore." The words hit like a slap. Seraphina spun on him, rain plastering her hair to her skull, the wedding dress already soaked through and heavy. "He's still family. So is my father. Didn't stop someone from putting 3 bullets in his head." Cassian stepped closer, rain streaming down his face, turning his expression into something carved from stone and old violence. "Family doesn't mean shit when money's involved. The sooner you learn that, the longer you'll live." He opened the SUV door. Seraphina looked at the dark interior, then back at the chapel where Luca stood in the doorway, backlit and small. "If I get in that car," she said slowly, "I'm never coming back, am I?" Cassian's expression didn't change. No. At least he was honest. Seraphina took one last look at her brother, the man who raised her, protected her, then traded her like poker chips, and climbed into the vehicle. The door slammed. Cassian slid in beside her. Marco took the driver's seat. The Escalade pulled away from the curb, tires hissing on wet asphalt. Seraphina kept her eyes forward. Didn't look back. Looking back was for people who had something left to lose. The drive took 40 minutes. They headed north along the lakeshore, past neighborhoods that got progressively richer, houses that got progressively bigger, until they turned through iron gates that probably cost more than Seraphina's entire life. The estate sprawled across what had to be 15 acres. Main house done in dark stone and glass, smaller buildings scattered across manicured grounds, security cameras covering every angle. Not a home, a fortress with good landscaping. Marco parked under a portico. Cassian got out first, then waited. Not polite, just making sure she didn't run. Where would she run? Back to the city? Back to nothing. Seraphina climbed out. Her dress dripped muddy water onto imported tile. "This way." Cassian headed for the main entrance. She followed because there weren't other options. Inside, the house was all dark wood and leather furniture. Modern art that probably cost 6 figures, and the kind of silence that only came from perfect soundproofing. Her wet shoes squeaked on hardwood floors. Cassian stopped at a massive staircase. "Your rooms are on the 3rd floor, east wing. Marco will show you." "My rooms," Seraphina repeated. "Plural." "You expected to share mine?" I expected... What had she expected? Some mafia wife fantasy from bad movies? Nothing. I expected nothing. His jaw tightened. Smart. He turned toward a hallway leading deeper into the house. "Stay in your rooms tonight. Someone will bring food. We'll talk tomorrow." "About what?" He paused mid-step. Looked back over his shoulder. "About why you have the face of a dead woman." Then he was gone, swallowed by shadows and expensive architecture. Marco cleared his throat. "This way, Mrs. Moretti." The name felt like a caller. Seraphina followed him up 3 flights of stairs, down a hallway lined with closed doors, to a suite that was bigger than her old apartment. Bedroom, sitting room, bathroom done in marble and gold fixtures, windows overlooking the lake, covered by heavy curtains. "There's clothes in the closet," Marco said, hovering in the doorway. "Toiletries in the bathroom. Intercom by the bed if you need anything." "What if I need to leave?" "You can't. I'm a prisoner." "You're the boss's wife. There's a difference." "Is there?" Marco's expression softened just slightly. "Look, I know this isn't... the circumstances aren't..." He stopped, started again. "Mr. Moretti isn't cruel. Follow his rules, don't cause problems, you'll be fine. And if I do cause problems, then I can't help you." He stepped back into the hall. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense." The door closed. A lock clicked. Seraphina stood in the center of her gilded cage and let the wedding dress fall to the floor. Her hands shook as she peeled off the wet silk. Her whole body shook. The adrenaline that had kept her upright through the ceremony finally drained away, leaving nothing but exhaustion and a strange, hollow feeling in her chest. She walked to the bathroom on autopilot, turned the shower as hot as it would go, stood under the spray until her skin turned red and the cold finally left her bones. When she climbed into bed an hour later, clean and wearing someone else's silk pajamas, sleep should have come easy. Instead, she lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about the photograph. Celeste Navarro. The woman had Seraphina's face, which meant one of two things. Either it was the universe's cruelest coincidence, or Seraphina was connected to whatever happened 26 years ago. And if she was connected, that meant Luca hadn't just sold her to pay off gambling debts. He'd sold her into the middle of a murder mystery that someone had spent decades trying to bury. Seraphina rolled onto her side, staring at the curtained windows. Rain still hammered the glass. Somewhere in this massive house, Cassian Moretti was probably staring at that same photograph, asking the same questions. What happened the night his father died? Where did Celeste Navarro go? And why did Seraphina Vale have her face? Sleep finally came around 4 in the morning. When it did, Seraphina dreamed of a woman with her face standing in a room full of blood, whispering words she couldn't hear. Like, she woke to pounding on the door. Pale sunlight leaked through the curtains. Seraphina sat up, disoriented, still half caught in nightmare images. The pounding came again. "You've got 5 minutes to get dressed," Marco's voice called through the wood. "Boss wants to see you." Seraphina's throat felt like sandpaper. "What time is it?" 6:30. Move." She dragged herself out of bed. Found clothes in the closet like Marco promised. Designer jeans, cashmere sweater, underwear still in packaging. Everything fit perfectly. More proof that this had been planned down to the last detail. 4 minutes later, she opened the door. Marco waited in the hall looking like he hadn't slept either. "Breakfast first?" "No time. He's in his office." They went back downstairs through hallways that looked different in daylight. Less menacing, just expensive and soulless. Marco stopped at a heavy oak door, knocked twice. "Enter." The office was all dark leather and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Massive desk positioned to face the door. Windows overlooking the grounds and covering one entire wall. Photographs. Dozens of them. Crime scenes. Surveillance shots. Candid photos taken from a distance. Cassian stood in front of that wall, still wearing yesterday's suit minus the jacket. His shirt sleeves were rolled up. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He'd been awake all night, looking at dead people. "Close the door," he said without turning around. Marco obeyed and left. The lock clicked again. Seraphina approached slowly, studying the wall. Most photos showed the same scene from different angles. A study destroyed by violence. Overturned desk, broken glass, and in the center, outlined in tape that had probably been white once, the shape of a body. "That's where they found him," Cassian said quietly. "Antonio Moretti, my father. 3 shots to the head, execution style." He pointed to another photo. "That's his blood on the carpet. 56 years old, killed in his own house while his family slept upstairs." Seraphina's stomach turned. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. You weren't born yet." He moved along the wall, trailing fingers over surveillance photos. "After his death, I spent years tracking everyone connected to that night. Associates, enemies, witnesses." He stopped at a photo of a young woman leaving an office building. Dark hair, honey-colored eyes. Celeste. She was supposed to testify. Federal prosecutors had her in protective custody. 3 days before the trial, she walked out of a safe house and vanished. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she was paid off. Cassian turned to face Seraphina finally. In daylight, he looked harder, older. Or maybe she knew something that would have gotten powerful people killed, and disappearing was the only way to survive. "What does this have to do with me?" "Everything." He crossed to his desk, pulled out a folder. "After the wedding, I made some calls. Had people dig into your background." He opened the folder, spreading papers across the desk. "Your father, Daniel Vale, appeared in Chicago records 17 years ago. Before that, nothing. No birth certificate, no school records, no medical history. It's like he materialized out of thin air." Seraphina's mouth went dry. "That's not possible." "It is if you're running from something." Cassian picked up another document. "Your mother's name isn't on your birth certificate. Father listed as Daniel Vale. Place of birth listed as Chicago, but there's no hospital record of your delivery. You were homeschooled until age 12, never had a passport. Your entire childhood was designed to keep you invisible. My father said, Seraphina's voice cracked. He said my mother left when I was a baby, that she couldn't handle being a parent. He lied. Cassian slid a photograph across the desk. Old, faded. A man and woman standing in front of a small house, the woman holding an infant. Recognize anyone? Seraphina picked up the photo with shaking hands. The woman was Celeste. The baby was maybe 6 months old. And the man, that's my father, she whispered. Daniel Vale, also known as Marcus Navarro. Cassian's voice was flat, cold. Celeste's husband, who disappeared the same night she did. The photograph slipped from Seraphina's fingers. Her brain refused to process the words. That's impossible. It's documented. Marriage license from Nevada, issued 8 months before my father's murder. Marcus Navarro, financial analyst. Celeste Navarro, same. They both worked for Antonio Moretti. They both vanished the same night. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed. You're not some random girl your brother traded to me. You're the daughter of the 2 people who witnessed my father's assassination. Seraphina's legs wouldn't hold her. She grabbed the edge of the desk. I didn't know. I believe you. His expression didn't soften. But it doesn't matter. Someone killed my father and buried the truth. Your parents helped cover it up. And now you're here, walking around with your mother's face, which means whoever wanted them dead might want you dead too. Then let me go. The words came out desperate. You want answers I can't give them. I don't remember my mother. My father never talked about his past. I don't know anything. You know enough. Cassian straightened. Your father kept you hidden for 17 years. That means he had something to hide from. And the only way to figure out what that was is to find out what really happened the night my father died. How? By following the trail your parents left. He moved back to the photo wall, pointing at different images. Celeste disappeared with nothing. No money, no car, no identification. But she survived for decades, which means she had help, resources, people willing to hide her. His finger landed on a blurry surveillance shot of an older man. This is Damian Rizzoli. He controlled the South Side back then, ran protection rackets, loan sharking, the works. 3 months after my father's murder, Rizzoli suddenly expanded his territory, bought properties, paid off politicians, like he'd come into a lot of money very fast. You think he was paid to kill your father? I think he was paid to arrange it. Cassian's jaw clenched. And I think your mother knew about it. Seraphina felt like she was drowning. So what now? You torture me until I remember something useful? No. He turned away from the wall. Now you help me find the truth. And in exchange, I keep you alive. I didn't agree to this. You agreed when you married me, when you put on that ring. He gestured at her hand. The platinum band caught morning light. We're bound now. Your problems are mine. My enemies are yours. The only way either of us survives is if we figure out who really killed my father and why your parents spent their lives running. And if I refuse? Cassian crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, grabbed her chin, tilted her face up so she had no choice but to meet his eyes. They were black, endless. The kind of eyes that had seen too much death to flinch at one more body. Then you'll spend the rest of your very short life locked in this house while I tear apart Chicago looking for answers. Your choice. His grip wasn't painful, just inescapable. Seraphina held his gaze. You're exactly the monster everyone says you are. Yes. No denial, no shame, just flat agreement. But I'm the only monster standing between you and whoever's been hunting your family for 26 years. So I'll ask again. Are you going to help me, or do I do this alone? The smart answer was yes. Agree. Play along. Stay alive. But Seraphina had spent her whole life being smart, being careful, letting other people make decisions. And where had it gotten her? Sold to a stranger, trapped in a house that felt like a beautiful coffin, tied to murders that happened before she was born. She was so tired of being afraid. Fine, she said through clenched teeth. I'll help. But if we're doing this, we're partners, not owner and property, not captor and prisoner, Partners. Cassian's thumb traced her jawline. You're in no position to negotiate. Neither are you. You need me. My face is the key to this. Whatever my parents knew, it's locked in here. She tapped her temple. Whether I remember it or not. So you can drag me around like a possession, or you can treat me like someone whose cooperation you actually need. Your choice. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then, slowly, something that might have been respect flickered across his face. Partners, he agreed. His hand dropped from her face. But if you cross me, if you lie to me, if you do anything that puts this investigation at risk, you'll kill me. I get it. No. His voice dropped. I'll wish I could. But you're too valuable dead. Somehow that was worse than any threat. Cassian moved back to his desk, already shifting gears. We start with Rizzoli. He's old now, retired. Lives in a brownstone in Lincoln Park with around-the-clock security. Getting to him won't be easy. Then his granddaughter. Cassian pulled up a photo on his computer. Young woman, maybe 25, dark hair cut in a sharp bob. Elena Rizzoli, art dealer, gallery in River North. She's legitimate, clean record, no ties to the old business. But she visits her grandfather twice a week like clockwork. Seraphina studied the photo. You want to use her as leverage. I want to use you as leverage. He turned the monitor so she could see better. You go to her gallery tomorrow. Pretend you're interested in buying art. Establish contact. Build trust. Eventually, she'll introduce you to family, including Granddad. And then what? Then we ask him why he paid to have my father killed and where he sent your mother to hide. It was a terrible plan, full of holes. But it was also the first time in 3 days Seraphina had felt like she had any control at all. Okay, she said. I can do that. Cassian's expression didn't change, but something in his posture relaxed. Just barely. Good. Marco will take you shopping today. You need clothes that look expensive enough to afford gallery art. I thought you said there were clothes in my closet. Those are for staying in the house. If you're going to play the part of my wife in public, you need to look like you belong on my arm. He said it matter-of-factly, not cruel, just stating logistics. Also, you'll need to learn how to shoot. That stopped her. What? A gun. I'll teach you, starting tonight. I don't care what you want. Cassian's voice hardened. The moment word gets out that I have a wife, you become a target. Every two-bit crew looking to make a name will think about grabbing you. The only way to stay alive is to be able to protect yourself when I'm not around. Seraphina's hands curled into fists. You're paranoid. I'm prepared. There's a difference. He walked to the office door, opened it. Marco stood outside like he'd been waiting. Probably had been. Take her shopping. High-end boutiques. Nothing flashy. She needs to look like old money, not a mistress. Marco nodded. Yes, boss. Cassian looked back at Seraphina. One more thing. Don't try to run. Don't try to contact your brother. Don't try to be clever. Every door in this house has locks I control. Every guard answers to me. You're safe here, but only if you follow my rules. Understand? She understood perfectly. She was a prisoner with better furniture. Crystal clear. Good. He closed the door between them. Seraphina stood alone in the hallway, heart pounding, mind racing. 24 hours ago, she'd been terrified. Now she was angry. Angry at Luca for selling her. Angry at her father for lying her entire life. Angry at Cassian for being right. She was valuable, but only as a tool. But anger was useful. Anger kept you sharp. If Cassian Moretti wanted a partner in his murder investigation, fine. She'd be the best damn partner he'd ever had. She'd smile and play dress-up and make small talk with mafia granddaughters. And while he was busy finding out who killed his father, Seraphina would find out who her mother really was. Because one thing was crystal clear. Whatever Celeste Navarro witnessed that night, whatever secret she'd carried for 26 years, they'd died with her. Unless they hadn't. Unless she'd left clues. Breadcrumbs. Some way for her daughter to find the truth. Seraphina touched the ring on her finger, felt the cool weight of platinum. Partners? She whispered to the empty hallway. But partnerships could be broken. And if Cassian Moretti thought he could control her forever, he was about to learn something her father taught her a long time ago. The most dangerous person in any room is the one nobody's watching. The boutique smelled like money and judgment. Seraphina stood in front of a three-way mirror while a woman with silver hair and a measuring tape circled her like a shark deciding where to bite first. "Arms up," the woman commanded. Seraphina obeyed. The tape cinched around her ribs, her waist, her hips. Numbers called out to an assistant who scribbled notes on an iPad. Marco sat near the entrance, scrolling through his phone, one hand resting casually near the bulge under his jacket. "Mr. Moretti has excellent taste," the woman said, though her tone suggested she didn't believe Seraphina deserved to wear any of it. "Classic lines, nothing ostentatious. You'll fit in perfectly at charity galas and private viewings." "Lucky me," Seraphina muttered. The woman's smile tightened. "Indeed." 2 hours later, Seraphina walked out with 6 shopping bags full of clothes she'd never pick for herself. Silk blouses, tailored slacks, cashmere sweaters in muted colors, a black cocktail dress that cost more than 3 months of her old rent, shoes that pinched, jewelry that felt like shackles dressed up as pearls. Marco loaded everything into the Escalade's trunk. "Hungry?" "Starving. Boss wants you back by 3. Shooting lessons start at 4. Of course they did. Seraphina climbed into the SUV and watched Chicago blur past the tinted windows. The city looked different from inside an armored vehicle. Smaller, like she was viewing it through the wrong end of a telescope. They stopped at some upscale cafe where the coffee cost $8 and came with foam art. Seraphina ordered a sandwich she didn't taste. Her mind kept circling back to the photographs in Cassian's office, the woman with her face, the father she thought she knew turning out to be someone else entirely. Marcus Navarro. The name felt foreign, wrong, like trying on someone else's skin. "You okay?" Marco asked around a mouthful of panini. "Does it matter?" "Not really. But you look like you're about to pass out. And if you collapse, I have to carry you. I'd rather not." Despite everything, Seraphina almost smiled. Thoughtful. "I'm practical." He took another bite, chewed, swallowed. "Look, I know this whole situation is fucked. You didn't ask for any of it, but for what it's worth, the boss isn't lying about keeping you safe. He might be a bastard, but he keeps his word. Even to people he owns?" Marco's expression hardened, especially to them. People who belong to Cassian Moretti don't die on his watch. It's a matter of pride. How comforting. It should be. There's worse monsters out there. He pushed his plate away. "You want advice? Stop fighting him on the small stuff. Save your energy for the big battles. Because there will be big battles, and you're going to need every ounce of strength you've got." Seraphina studied him. Mid-30s maybe. Built like someone who knew how to hurt people but didn't enjoy it. Tired eyes. "How long have you worked for him?" 12 years, since I was 22. "Why?" "Because my father owed money to the Morettis, and I traded myself to clear his debt." Marco's smile held no humor. "Sound familiar?" It did. Too familiar. "Did you ever try to leave?" "Once. Got as far as O'Hare before I realized I didn't want to." He leaned back in his chair. "Say what you want about Cassian, but he's loyal. He pays well, and he doesn't waste people on stupid shit. You work for him, you matter. That's rare in this world." Seraphina wanted to argue, wanted to point out that loyalty meant nothing when it was backed by guns and threats. But Marco's eyes told a different story. He believed what he said, which meant either he was brainwashed or there was more to Cassian Moretti than cold brutality. Neither option made her feel better. They drove back to the estate in silence. The iron gate swung open automatically. Marco parked under the portico, helped carry bags upstairs. Seraphina thanked him out of habit. "Boss wants you in the basement at 4, he said from the doorway. "Don't be late." The door closed, locked. Seraphina was alone again with expensive clothes and a growing sense of dread. The basement wasn't what she expected. Instead of concrete walls and bare bulbs, she found a state-of-the-art shooting range, soundproofed walls, climate-controlled, 6 lanes with electronic targets, a gun safe the size of a walk-in closet, and Cassian standing at lane 3, loading a pistol with the casual efficiency of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. He looked up when she entered. "You're 2 minutes late." "I got lost. This house is a maze. Learn it." He set the loaded gun on the counter in front of him. "Come here." Seraphina approached slowly. The gun looked wrong somehow, too small, too ordinary, like something that shouldn't be able to end a life. Glock 19, Cassian said without preamble. 9mm, 15-round magazine. Standard issue for most law enforcement, which means parts are easy to find and it's reliable as hell. He picked it up, checked the chamber, set it back down. This is your weapon now. You'll learn to load it, clean it, and shoot it until it feels like an extension of your hand. I don't want to kill anyone. Neither did I, the first time. He gestured to the counter. Pick it up. Seraphina's hands trembled as she reached for the gun. It was heavier than she expected, cold, the grip textured against her palm. Finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, Cassian instructed. He moved behind her, adjusting her stance, his hands on her shoulders, her hips, impersonal and clinical. Feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent. You want to absorb the recoil through your whole body, not just your arms. His breath was warm against her ear. Seraphina tried to focus on his words instead of how close he was standing, how solid his chest felt against her back. Grip with your dominant hand, support with your other, thumbs forward, arms extended but not locked. He guided her hands into position. The gun becomes part of you. You don't aim it, you point it, like pointing your finger. That's it? That's the basics. The rest is practice. He stepped back. Safety's off. There's one round in the chamber. When you're ready, aim at the target and pull the trigger. Seraphina stared down the lane at the paper silhouette 30 feet away. Her heart hammered. Sweat slicked her palms. I can't. You can. I've never, Then today's the day you start. His voice was flat. No sympathy, no patience. Someone breaks into this house looking for you. They won't wait for you to be ready. They won't give you time to think. They'll just put a bullet in your head and walk away. So you can stand here shaking, or you can pull the trigger and learn how to fight back. Anger flared hot in Seraphina's chest. She lined up the sights, squeezed the trigger. The gun kicked. The sound exploded even through the ear protection. Her shot went wide, punching a hole in the wall 2 feet left of the target. Again, Cassian loaded another round. Adjust your grip. You're anticipating the recoil. She fired. Missed. Again. Fired. Missed. Again. On the 7th shot, she hit the target's shoulder. Not center mass, not a kill shot, but contact. Something fierce and terrifying bloomed in Seraphina's chest. Not pride. Something darker. The knowledge that she could hurt someone if she had to. Better, Cassian said. Now do it 40 more times. They spent 2 hours in that basement, loading, firing, reloading. By the end, Seraphina's arms shook from exhaustion and her ears rang despite the protection. But she could hit the target's chest 3 times out of 5. Cassian collected the spent brass. Tomorrow we work on moving targets. Next week, close quarters combat. You need to know how to fight even if you lose the gun. Seraphina set the Glock down carefully. Her hands were steady now. The trembling had burned away with the gunpowder. You really think someone's going to come after me? I know they will. He locked the gun safe. Word's already spreading that I got married. Every crew in Chicago is asking questions. Who you are, where you came from, why I'd tie myself to anyone. He turned to face her. And when they find out you're connected to Celeste Navarro, they'll come. Either to use you as leverage against me or to silence you before you remember something dangerous. I don't remember anything. They don't know that. He walked past her toward the stairs. Dinner's at 7. Don't be late. He left her standing in the shooting range, surrounded by the smell of cordite and her own fear. Eats. Dinner was worse than the shooting lessons. The dining room could seat 20. Cassian sat at the head of the long table. Seraphina sat to his right. Between them stretched enough polished wood to build a boat. Staff served course after course. Soup she didn't taste. Salad she pushed around her plate. Some kind of fish that probably cost a fortune and turned to ash in her mouth. Cassian ate in silence. Not hostile, just absent, like she wasn't even there. Finally, Seraphina couldn't stand it anymore. Is this how it's going to be? Silence and guns and pretending we're not strangers? He looked up from his plate. We are strangers. Married strangers. A legal technicality that you enforced. His jaw tightened. You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk. Tell me about your childhood. Why? Because somewhere in your past is a clue about what happened to your parents. The more I know, the faster we find answers. Of course, everything came back to the investigation. Seraphina set down her fork. I don't remember much. My father moved us around a lot. Different apartments, different neighborhoods. Never stayed anywhere longer than 2 years. He was hiding. Apparently, bitterness crept into her voice. I thought he was just restless, liked new starts. Turns out he was running from whoever killed your father. Did he ever talk about his work? Friends? Anyone he was close to? No friends. He worked construction jobs, paid cash, kept to himself. Seraphina's throat tightened. I thought he was just private, an introvert. I didn't know he was living under a fake name. Cassian studied her with that unsettling focus. What happened when he died? Heart attack. At least that's what the coroner said. He collapsed at a job site, dead before the ambulance arrived. The memory still hurt like a fresh bruise. I was 16. Luca was 23. We buried him and moved on because that's what you do when you're poor and nobody cares. Did he leave anything? Papers? Photos? A will? Nothing, just debt. Seraphina laughed without humor. Turns out construction workers who get paid under the table don't have life insurance. Luca took care of everything. Found me a place to stay, made sure I finished school. I thought he was being a good brother. He was covering up your father's past. The words hit like a punch. What? Think about it. Your father dies suddenly. Luca immediately takes control, keeps you close, keeps you invisible. Cassian leaned forward. He knew who your father really was. He had to, and he's been protecting that secret for 10 years. That's not... But Seraphina's protest died, because it made horrible sense. Luca's insistence she avoid social media, his paranoia about government forms, the way he always paid rent in cash and never let her get a real job with tax records. She thought he was being overprotective. Turns out he was being careful. He sold you to me for $3 million, Cassian continued, voice flat. But your brother's gambling debts weren't that high. I checked. He owed maybe $800,000. The rest was negotiation. Seraphina's blood went cold. What are you saying? I'm saying Luca knew exactly who I was when he brought you to that warehouse. He knew about my father's murder. He knew about Celeste Navarro. And he knew that if he delivered you to me, I'd pay premium price for answers. You're wrong. Am I? Cassian pulled out his phone, pulled up a photo, slid it across the table. That's your brother meeting with Vincent Calabrese 2 weeks before our wedding. Calabrese is my lawyer, same lawyer who drew up the marriage contract. The photo showed Luca and an older man in suits shaking hands outside a downtown restaurant. That doesn't mean... It means your brother set this up, all of it. The gambling debts were just the excuse. Cassian's expression was carved granite. He sold you deliberately, either because he needed the money or because someone paid him to get you close to me. Seraphina couldn't breathe. The room spun. He wouldn't. He did. You're lying. I don't lie. Cassian stood, walking around the table until he loomed over her. Your brother traded you like livestock and walked away with enough money to disappear. That's the truth. You can accept it or you can keep lying to yourself, but it won't change what happened. Seraphina shot to her feet. You don't know him. I know men like him. I've seen 1,000 versions of Luca Vale, weak, desperate, willing to sacrifice anything to save their own skin. He grabbed her wrist. The sooner you stop making excuses for him, the sooner you'll see what he really is. She jerked free. And what are you? Some noble savior? You bought me. You own me. You're training me to kill people. Don't act like you're better than him. I never said I was better. His voice dropped. But at least I'm honest about what I am. They stood inches apart. Seraphina's chest heaved. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall, refused to give him the satisfaction. I hate you, she whispered. Good. Cassian stepped back. Hate keeps you sharp. Hate keeps you alive. You'll need both if we're going to survive what comes next. He walked out, left her standing alone in a dining room big enough to echo. Seraphina sank back into her chair, put her head in her hands, let the tears come, because Cassian was right. Deep down, in the place where brutal truths lived, she knew he was right. Luca had sold her deliberately, had looked her in the eye and lied about gambling debts while negotiating her price like she was property. Her brother, the man who raised her, the only family she had left. He'd betrayed her in the worst possible way. And somewhere in Chicago, he was probably spending the money and sleeping fine. The gallery was exactly what Seraphina expected. White walls, polished concrete floors, pretentious abstract paintings that looked like someone sneezed on canvas and called it art. A beautiful woman with severe black hair stood behind a minimalist desk, talking quietly on the phone. Elena Rizzoli. Seraphina had spent the previous evening memorizing everything Cassian's files contained. 26 years old, degree from Northwestern, gallery open 3 years, no criminal record, no association with her grandfather's old business, clean as they came, which meant she was either genuinely legitimate or very good at covering tracks. The woman ended her call and smiled, professional warmth that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome to Verita Gallery. I'm Elena. Can I help you find something?" "I hope so." Seraphina channeled every ounce of confidence she didn't feel. "I just moved to Chicago. My husband suggested I look for local artists to fill some wall space." "How wonderful. What's your aesthetic? Modern? Classical? Something more experimental?" "I'm not sure yet. Maybe you could show me around." Elena's smile warmed a fraction. "Of course." They spent 40 minutes touring the gallery. Elena explained each piece with genuine passion, the artist's vision, the technique, the way light played across texture. Seraphina asked questions, made thoughtful sounds, played the role of wealthy wife with money to burn and nothing but time. "This one." She stopped in front of a large abstract piece, dark blues and blacks with slashes of red. "Tell me about this." "That's Marcus Chen, up and coming. This piece is called Inheritance. It's about the violence we carry from previous generations." Elena studied the painting. "I find it haunting, the way the red breaks through the darkness, like old wounds bleeding into the present." Seraphina's breath caught. "How much?" 45,000. "I'll take it." Elena blinked. Are you sure? Would you like time to consider?" "I'm sure." Seraphina pulled out the credit card Cassian had given her that morning. Black metal, no limit. "Can you deliver it this week?" "Absolutely." Elena took the card, still looking slightly stunned. "May I ask your name for the paperwork?" "Seraphina Moretti." The reaction was immediate. Elena's polite mask slipped, just for a second. Fear flashed across her face before professional composure slammed back down. "Moretti," she repeated carefully. "Is that a problem?" "No, of course not." But her hands trembled slightly as she ran the card. "I'll have this delivered to... Where should I send it?" Seraphina gave the estate's address, watched Elena's face go paler with each word. Everyone in Chicago knew that address, knew who lived there. And now Elena Rizzoli knew exactly who'd just walked into her gallery. The transaction completed in tense silence. Elena handed back the card along with a receipt. "Thank you for your purchase, Mrs. Moretti. I hope you enjoy the piece." "I'm sure I will." Seraphina turned to leave, then paused. "You know, I don't have many friends in Chicago yet. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. Talk about art." Elena's smile went brittle. "I'm quite busy with the gallery." "Of course, but if you change your mind..." Seraphina scribbled her number on the back of a business card sitting on Elena's desk. "I'd love to get to know more local artists." She left before Elena could refuse again. Outside, Marco waited in the Escalade. Seraphina climbed in, heart pounding. "How'd it go?" he asked. "I spent $45,000 on a painting I'll never hang and probably scared her half to death." "Sounds about right." He pulled into traffic. "Boss will be pleased." Seraphina doubted that. Cassian Moretti didn't seem capable of pleasure, just varying degrees of cold calculation. But she'd made contact, established herself as someone with money and time. Now they'd wait. See if Elena took the bait. See if fear or curiosity won. 3 days passed. Seraphina fell into a routine. Morning shooting practice. Afternoon research in Cassian's office. Going through old files and crime scene reports. evening combat training where she learned how to break a man's nose with her palm and drive her knee into vulnerable places. Cassian taught her with the same cold efficiency he brought to everything. No praise, no encouragement, just correction and repetition until her body remembered what her mind couldn't process. By the third night, she could disarm him 1 time in 10, which he said was better than most. They didn't eat dinner together anymore. Seraphina took meals in her room, read files until her eyes burned, tried not to think about Luca, tried not to remember her father's face, tried not to wonder who Celeste Navarro really was and why she'd left her daughter behind. On the 4th morning, Elena called. Seraphina was cleaning the Glock when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Moretti? This is Elena Rizzoli, from the gallery. Seraphina's pulse jumped. Elena, what a nice surprise. I was thinking about your offer, coffee, if you're still interested. Absolutely. When? Today? There's a cafe near my gallery. Giovanni's, 2 o'clock? I'll be there. The line went dead. Seraphina stared at her phone. Then she was up, moving, finding Cassian in his office. He looked up from his computer. What happened? Elena called. She wants to meet. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite satisfaction, more like a predator catching a scent. Where? Giovanni's, 2 o'clock. I know it. Public place. Lots of witnesses. He stood. Marco will drive you. I'll have people nearby in case it goes wrong. You think it's a trap? I think Elena Rizzoli didn't call you because she wants a friend. She called because her grandfather told her to. Cassian came around the desk. Whatever she wants, it's connected to Damien. So you smile. You play nice. And you find out what the old man knows. And if she asks about us, about why I married you, tell her the truth. Your brother sold you. It's better than any lie you could invent. His hand came up, almost touching her face, then dropped. Remember, you're not playing a role. You're Seraphina Moretti, my wife. That makes you dangerous by association. Use it. Giovanni's was quaint, exposed brick, mismatched furniture, the smell of fresh espresso. Elena sat in a corner booth, already nursing a cappuccino. She looked up when Seraphina approached, smiled. It was almost convincing. Thank you for coming. Thank you for calling. Seraphina slid into the booth. A waitress appeared. Seraphina ordered tea she wouldn't drink. Silence stretched between them. Elena picked at her napkin. Finally, I need to be honest with you. Please. When you said your name the other day, I recognized it. Everyone in Chicago knows Cassian Moretti. She met Seraphina's eyes. And everyone knows he doesn't marry people. He uses them. So when you walked into my gallery wearing a wedding ring and his name, I got scared. Scared of me? Scared of what it meant. Why you were really there. Elena's voice dropped. My grandfather has history with the Moretti family. Bad history. And I've spent my whole life staying out of that world, building something legitimate, something clean. I'm not here to drag you into anything. Then why did you come to my gallery specifically? There are dozens in Chicago. Seraphina made a choice. Honesty. Or close enough. Because I'm looking for information about the past, about people my husband thinks your grandfather might know. Elena went very still. I don't talk to my grandfather about his old business. But you could. I won't. Even if it means understanding why people died? Elena's jaw tightened. My grandfather is retired, elderly. Whatever he did back then, it's done. Finished. I'm not going to let you use me to dredge up old blood. I'm not trying to use you. Seraphina leaned forward. I'm trying to understand who I am. My father died 10 years ago. Turns out his whole identity was fake. My mother disappeared when I was a baby, and now I'm married to a man hunting answers about his father's murder. I didn't ask for any of this. But I'm in it. And the only way out is through. Elena studied her for a long moment. You really don't know what you're caught in, do you? No, that's why I need help. I can't give you what you want. Then give me what you can, please. Seraphina reached across the table. I'm not asking you to betray your grandfather. Just tell me if he knew a woman named Celeste Navarro. That's all. Elena pulled back, stood. I'm sorry, Mrs. Moretti, but I can't help you. She walked out, left money on the table, disappeared into the Chicago afternoon. Seraphina sat alone in the booth, frustration clawing at her throat. Marco appeared from another table. Boss isn't going to be happy. I know. But as they walked to the SUV, Seraphina saw something. A flash of movement in her peripheral vision. Elena, standing half a block away, talking intensely on her phone, and watching them leave. Kate. Cassian listened to Seraphina's report without expression. They were back in his office. Afternoon light slanted through windows, turning the crime scene photos on the wall into something almost artistic. She refused, he said flatly. Yes. Did she seem scared? Terrified. Good. Fear makes people act. He turned to his computer. Pulled up surveillance photos. My people followed her after she left the cafe. She went straight to a nursing home in Evanston, visited her grandfather for 40 minutes, then drove back to her gallery. So she did talk to him. More than that. Cassian zoomed in on a photo. Elena walking out of the nursing home, face pale and drawn. Look at her expression. That's not just fear. That's someone who just learned something they didn't want to know. Seraphina studied the image. You think Damien told her about Celeste? I think he told her enough to scare her, and scared people make mistakes. He closed the photo. We wait. Give her time to process. In a few days, she'll either call you again or try to warn us off. Either way, we'll know more. And if she goes to the police? She won't. The Rizzolis don't talk to cops. It's genetic. He stood, stretching. Something in his shoulders cracked. In the meantime, we have another problem. What now? Your brother. Cassian pulled up security footage, grainy black and white. A man approaching the estate's front gate at 3 a.m. Luca, drunk, screaming at the camera. He showed up last night, demanding to see you. Marco's men sent him away, but he'll be back. Seraphina's stomach twisted. I don't want to see him. You don't have a choice. He's making a scene, drawing attention, the kind of attention we don't need while we're investigating Rizzoli. Cassian's expression hardened. You'll meet with him, tomorrow, here, under controlled circumstances. I can't face him. You can and you will. He moved closer. Luca sold you. That's done. But now he's a loose end, and I need to know if he's just a guilty drunk or if someone's pulling his strings. The only way to find out is to let him talk. So you'll sit across from him, you'll listen, and you'll report everything he says. He's my brother. He's a liability. Cassian's voice went soft, dangerous. You want to protect him? Fine. But protection means knowing what he knows. Otherwise, he gets people killed, possibly you. The weight of it crushed down on Seraphina's chest. I hate this, all of it. I know. For the first time, something almost gentle flickered across Cassian's face. But hate's not enough to stop it. He left her alone in the office, surrounded by ghosts and questions and the growing certainty that nothing would ever be simple again. Luca arrived at noon the next day. Marco brought him to a sitting room on the first floor. Neutral territory. 2 guards stationed outside. No weapons, no privacy. Seraphina sat in an armchair and watched her brother walk in. He looked terrible, unshaven. Bloodshot eyes, clothes rumpled like he'd slept in them. But when he saw her, relief cracked across his face. Sarah, thank God! He rushed forward. Don't! The word came out sharp as broken glass. Don't touch me. Luca stopped, hands hovering. I've been going crazy. Moretti's people won't let me near you. I thought... You thought what? That I'd be happy to see you? I wanted to explain. Explain what? How you sold me? How you lied about the gambling debts? How you negotiated my price like I was a used car? Seraphina's voice shook. Which part needs explaining, Luca? His face crumpled. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He sank onto the couch, put his head in his hands. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. No, not when they threaten to kill you. Not when they make it clear you either deliver or you disappear. Luca looked up. His eyes were wet. I got in deep with the wrong people. Owed money I couldn't pay. They were going to kill me, Sarah. actually kill me, and then someone offered a way out. Who? I don't know his name, just a voice on the phone. He said if I brought you to Moretti, the debts would disappear, said there was money in it too, enough to start over somewhere safe. Seraphina's blood ran cold. Someone paid you to deliver me to Cassian? Yes. Who? I told you, I don't know. He never gave a name, just instructions. Where to take you, what to say. He said Moretti would pay top dollar for you once he saw your face. Luca's voice cracked. I didn't understand why. I just knew it was my only way out. So you sacrificed me. I saved both of us. You think Moretti would have let either of us live if I'd refused? He wanted you. For whatever reason, he wanted you, and I was just the delivery system. Luca stood, moving toward her. I'm sorry, God, I'm so sorry, but I didn't have a choice. You have to believe me. Seraphina stood too, met her brother's eyes, saw the fear and guilt swimming there, and beneath it, the weakness that had defined him his whole life. I believe you didn't have a choice, she said quietly, but you still made one, and now I have to live with it. Let me fix this. Let me get you out. We can run, disappear somewhere Moretti can't find us. There's nowhere he can't find us. Then we fight. We go to the cops. The cops can't touch him, Luca. Nobody can. Seraphina moved to the door. Go home. Take your money and don't come back. Sarah, I mean it. I'm not yours to save anymore. I'm his, and that's on you. She walked out before he could respond, before the tears threatening to spill could give him any satisfaction. Behind her, Luca's broken sobs echoed through the sitting room. Outside, Cassian waited in the hallway. You heard everything? He nodded toward a discreet speaker in the ceiling. Of course he'd been listening. Someone set this up, Seraphina said. Someone wanted me delivered to you. I know. Who? That's what we're going to find out. He started walking. Seraphina followed. Luca's story changes things. This wasn't random. Someone knew about your connection to Celeste. Someone wanted us in the same room. Why? Maybe to see what we'd uncover together. Maybe to watch us destroy each other. They reached his office. Cassian pulled out a bottle of whiskey, poured 2 glasses, handed one to Seraphina. Either way, we're being played, and I don't like being played. Seraphina drank. The whiskey burned. So what now? Now we stop reacting and start pushing back. He finished his drink in one swallow. Elena Rizzoli's grandfather knows something, and tomorrow we're going to make him tell us what. How? Cassian smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. By reminding him that some debts never expire. Gokikek. The nursing home was called Serenity Gardens, which was ironic considering the man who lived there had spent 40 years drenched in blood and violence. Damien Rizzoli occupied the entire top floor. Private nurses. Private security. A suite that probably cost more per month than most people's mortgages. Cassian and Seraphina walked through the lobby like they owned it. Marco and 3 other men followed. The staff didn't stop them. Either they were paid not to, or they recognized Cassian's face and knew better. The top floor had its own elevator, required a key card. Cassian pulled one from his pocket. Where did you get that? Seraphina asked. I bought it, from a nurse who needs money for her kids' college. The elevator doors opened. Everyone has a price. They rode up in silence. The doors opened onto a hallway that smelled like antiseptic and expensive cologne. 2 men in suits stood outside the corner suite. They tensed when they saw Cassian. Mr. Moretti, one said carefully. Mr. Rizzoli isn't expecting visitors. He is now. Cassian walked past them. The men looked at each other, then stepped aside. The suite was massive. Living room, kitchenette, bedroom visible through an open door, and in a leather armchair by the window, surrounded by oxygen tanks and medication bottles, sat a man who looked like death deferred. Damien Rizzoli was 83 years old. Liver-spotted skin, hands twisted by arthritis, but his eyes were sharp as broken glass. Cassian Moretti, he said. His voice was gravel and smoke. I wondered when you'd finally find the balls to come see me. Damien. Cassian sat on the couch without being invited. You look like hell. Cancer, stage 4. 6 months if I'm lucky. The old man smiled. But that's longer than you'll last if you keep digging into the past. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Damien's gaze shifted to Seraphina. His expression changed. Shock, fear, something darker. Madonna Santa, you brought her here. You know who she is, Cassian said. Not a question. I know that face. Damien's hands trembled on the armrest. Celeste. You look just like Celeste. Seraphina stepped forward. Where is she? Dead. Has to be. Anyone who knew what she knew couldn't survive this long. What did she know? Damien laughed. It turned into a coughing fit that lasted 30 seconds. When he recovered, blood flecked his lips. Everything, every name, every payment, every lie. She was your father's accountant, Cassian. She saw the real books, the ones Antonio kept hidden even from his family. Cassian went very still. What books? The ones that proved he wasn't the saint everyone thought. The ones that showed he'd been bleeding the organization dry for years. Stealing, laundering, paying off politicians and cops and judges. Damien wiped his mouth. Your father was dirty, boy, and Celeste had proof. You're lying. I'm dying. What reason would I have to lie? The old man leaned forward. Antonio Moretti was planning to disappear. Take the money and run. Leave the empire to burn. But someone found out. Someone who couldn't let that happen. Who? Damien smiled. Your uncle, Lorenzo Moretti. He killed his own brother to save the family business. And then he paid me to clean up the mess, to find Celeste and make sure she never talked. The world tilted. Seraphina grabbed the back of the couch. Cassian's face had gone white. Lorenzo's dead, he said flatly. Heart attack 5 years ago. Convenient timing, wasn't it? Damien's eyes glittered. He took the truth to his grave, and I was supposed to do the same. But then you showed up with Celeste's daughter, and I realized the past isn't done with us yet. Where did Celeste go? I don't know. She disappeared before we could find her. Took the books. Took her baby. Took her husband. They all vanished like smoke. He coughed again. But someone knew where they were. Someone kept them alive. Kept them hidden. Who? If I knew that, they'd already be dead. Damien's expression hardened. You want advice, Moretti? Stop digging. Whatever your father was, whatever he did, it's done. Finished. Let the dead stay buried. No. Cassian stood. My father's murder destroyed my family. Shaped my entire life. I don't care if he was a saint or a devil. I'm going to know the truth. Then you're a fool. Damien looked at Seraphina. And you, girl, you're the worst kind of collateral. The kind that makes powerful men nervous. They let you live this long as a courtesy. But the moment you start asking questions, that courtesy ends. Who are they? Ghosts. Men who've spent 26 years covering tracks. Men who've killed to protect secrets before and will do it again. His breathing rattled. Go home. Forget what I told you. Live your life. I can't. Seraphina's voice broke. My whole life has been a lie. I deserve to know why. Deserve. Damien laughed bitterly. Nobody deserves anything in this world, girl. We get what we take or what we're given. And what you've been given is a chance to walk away. I suggest you take it. Cassian grabbed Seraphina's arm. We're done here. They walked out, past the guards, down the elevator, through the lobby, into the SUV where Marco waited. Nobody spoke during the drive back. Seraphina stared out the window, mind reeling. Lorenzo Moretti killed his brother, Cassian's own uncle, the man he probably grew up knowing, trusting, and Celeste had proof, which meant somewhere, hidden in 26 years of running and fear, was evidence that could destroy what remained of the Moretti legacy. Evidence Seraphina's father had helped hide. Evidence that got him killed, because heart attacks at job sites weren't always accidents. He was murdered, she said suddenly. My father, 10 years ago. They finally found him, and they killed him. Cassian didn't deny it, just kept staring straight ahead. Who? Seraphina's voice rose. Who killed him? I don't know, but we're going to find out. How? Damien's dying. He won't tell us more. He doesn't have to. Cassian pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. blurry, taken through a telephoto lens, Damien's suite, a younger man in an expensive suit standing by the window. That was taken this morning, 2 hours before we arrived. Cassian zoomed in. Recognize him? Seraphina's heart stopped. It was one of the men from the warehouse, one of the men who'd stood silent while Luca sold her, one of Cassian's own people. He's yours, she whispered. He was. Cassian's expression was carved from ice and murder, which means someone inside my organization has been working against me, feeding information, protecting secrets. What are you going to do? Find him, question him, and make him tell me who he's really working for. The SUV pulled through the estate gates. Then I'm going to kill everyone involved, every single person who had a hand in my father's murder, in your parents' deaths, in this entire rotten conspiracy. He looked at Seraphina. His eyes were black pits. And you're going to help me do it. It wasn't a request. It was a promise soaked in blood. And Seraphina realized with cold, crystal clarity that there was no going back, no walking away, no pretending any of this wasn't her problem. She was part of the war now, whether she wanted to be or not. The traitor's name was Vincent Delacroix, 28 years old, former military, clean record. Cassian had hired him 3 years ago based on Marco's recommendation, trusted him with security details, weapons shipments, information that could get people killed. And now Vincent was zip-tied to a chair in the estate's basement, blood streaming from his nose, while Cassian stood over him with knuckles already turning purple. Seraphina watched from the doorway. She should have felt sick, should have looked away. But after everything she'd learned, after every lie that had shaped her life, she felt nothing except cold curiosity. "Who do you work for?" Cassian asked. His voice was conversational, like he was discussing the weather. Vincent spat blood. "Go to hell." Cassian hit him again. The sound of fist meeting face was wet and ugly. Vincent's head snapped sideways. "Wrong answer. Try again." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You visited Damien Rizzoli this morning, 2 hours before I showed up. That's documented. My people have photos, timestamps. You can't lie your way out of this." Cassian grabbed Vincent's hair, jerking his head back. "So I'll ask one more time. Who sent you to Rizzoli?" Vincent's eyes were already swelling shut, but through the blood and bruising, something defiant flickered. "You really think you're going to find the truth? You think digging up your father's corpse is going to change anything? Answer the question. Your father was a thief and a coward, and your uncle did what had to be done to save the family. That's the truth. That's all there is." Cassian's expression didn't change, but his hand moved to his waistband, drew a gun, pressed the barrel against Vincent's kneecap. "Last chance." "Boss." Marco stepped forward from the corner where he'd been standing silent. "If you shoot him here, he can't tell us anything." "He's not going to tell us anything anyway. Are you, Vincent?" The gun didn't waver. "You're trained. You know how this works. You're going to hold out until you bleed to death or I get bored. So let's skip the dance." Seraphina moved into the room before she could stop herself. "Wait." Cassian glanced at her. "This isn't for you to watch." "I'm already watching." She approached Vincent's chair, knelt down so they were eye level. "You were at the warehouse, 3 days before my wedding. You stood in the corner while my brother sold me. You didn't say anything, just watched." Vincent's swollen eyes focused on her with effort. So you knew who I was, knew what my face meant. That's why you went to Rizzoli this morning. You were reporting back, telling someone that Cassian had found Celeste's daughter." Seraphina's voice stayed calm, steady. "But you made a mistake. You assumed I was just leverage, just another piece on the board. You didn't think I'd actually help him dig." Something flickered across Vincent's face. Uncertainty. "Who's protecting the secret?" Seraphina asked quietly. "Who's so scared of what my mother knew that they've been killing people for 26 years? You don't understand what you're asking. Then explain it to me." Vincent's breath rattled. "Your mother wasn't just a witness. She was the architect. She helped Antonio Moretti steal millions from his own organization. They were going to run together. New identities, new life. But Lorenzo found out. And when he confronted Antonio, your mother was there. She saw Lorenzo pull the trigger." The basement went silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Cassian's gun lowered slowly. My uncle killed my father in front of Celeste. Yes. And she ran. She tried to. Lorenzo had people tracking her, Damien's crew. But someone helped her disappear. Someone with resources. Someone who wanted the truth buried just as badly as Lorenzo did. Vincent coughed. Blood bubbled on his lips. Your mother made a deal. She'd stay hidden, keep the evidence hidden, and in exchange they'd let her and her family live. Seraphina's throat closed. My father. He knew. Marcus Navarro helped plan the theft. He was in it from the beginning. When everything went wrong, he grabbed you and ran, changed his name, kept moving, lived in fear for 17 years until they finally caught up with him. Who killed him? Vincent smiled through broken teeth. I did. The words hit like a gunshot. Seraphina stood. Her legs trembled, her hands shook. Everything in her body screamed to move, to react, to do something, but she felt frozen, carved from ice and shock. You. The word barely made it past her lips. 10 years ago. Construction site, south side. I made it look like a heart attack, quick, clean. He didn't suffer. Vincent's eyes locked on hers. He knew it was coming. I saw it in his face when I approached him. He'd been waiting for someone like me his whole life. Cassian grabbed Seraphina's arm. Don't. But she was already pulling free, already grabbing the gun from his waistband, already raising it with hands that had learned to shoot in this very basement. Vincent didn't flinch. Do it. You think killing me changes anything? You think it brings him back? It makes me feel better. Seraphina's finger found the trigger. Her hands were steady now. All the training, all the hours spent learning to point and squeeze, it came back with crystal clarity. Seraphina. Cassian's voice was soft. If you pull that trigger, you can't undo it. You'll have killed a man. That changes you. Forever. I don't care. Yes, you do. Otherwise, you would have already shot him. He moved closer, not trying to take the gun, just standing beside her. He deserves to die. I won't stop you, but you need to understand what it costs. Seraphina stared down the barrel at Vincent's ruined face. Her father's killer. The man who'd stolen 10 years of life. Who'd made her an orphan. Who'd helped bury the truth so deep it had taken a forced marriage to drag it back into daylight. She wanted to pull the trigger, wanted to watch him die, wanted that burst of violence and finality. But Cassian was right. Killing changed you. And Seraphina wasn't sure she was ready to become that person yet. She lowered the gun. Tell us who you're working for. Give us names, and I'll let you live. Vincent laughed. It was a broken, gurgling sound. You think you're offering mercy? Living is the punishment. I'm dead either way. The moment I talk, they'll come for me. The moment I don't, he'll kill me. His eyes flicked to Cassian. At least with him, it'll be quick. Who's they? Cassian took the gun from Seraphina gently, aimed it at Vincent himself. Who's been running this operation? People you can't touch. People who've been pulling strings since before you were born. Vincent's breathing was getting shallower. Something inside him was bleeding badly. You want a name? Fine. Thomas Brennan, federal prosecutor. He's been protecting Lorenzo's legacy for 2 decades, making sure the truth stayed buried, making sure anyone who got close disappeared. Brennan's clean. I've had people looking at him for years. That's because he's good at his job, and because Lorenzo paid him enough money to buy a small country. Vincent coughed. More blood. Celeste had evidence, financial records, recordings, proof of everything. Brennan's been hunting those files since the night Antonio died. That's why your father had to die, girl. He was the only one who knew where Celeste hid them. Seraphina's mind raced. My father never told me about any files. He wouldn't. Telling you made you a target. Keeping you ignorant kept you alive. Vincent's eyes were glazing, going dim. But now you're asking questions. Now you're digging, and Brennan knows, which means you're already dead, both of you. Cassian fired twice. Center mass, professional. Vincent slumped in the chair. Blood spread across his chest. His eyes went empty. The silence after gunfire was always worse than the sound itself. Marco moved forward, started checking the body. Cassian handed Seraphina the gun. Clean this. Put it back in the safe. Then go upstairs and pack a bag. What? We're leaving. Tonight. Brennan knows we talked to Rizzoli, knows we're getting close. He'll come for us. Cassian was already moving toward the stairs. Marco, get everyone you trust. Tell them to meet at the secondary location. Burn anything that connects to this place. Boss, if we run, we're not running, we're repositioning. At the top of the stairs, Cassian turned back. His face was granite. Someone inside my organization sold me out. Someone knew Vincent was compromised and didn't tell me. Which means I can't trust anyone here. So we go dark, regroup, and we figure out where Celeste hid those files before Brennan finds them first. Seraphina followed him up. Her hands were still shaking. Her father's killer was dead in the basement, and instead of feeling victorious, she felt hollow. How do we find files that have been hidden for 26 years? We start with the last person who saw your mother alive. Cassian headed for his office. There's someone I need to call. The secondary location was a warehouse in Gary, Indiana, 40 minutes outside Chicago, surrounded by abandoned factories and empty lots where people didn't ask questions. Inside, it was surprisingly well maintained: generators, running water, sleeping quarters, an armory that would make small countries jealous. Cassian had planned for this, had always known the estate might become compromised, had prepared for the day he'd need to disappear. Seraphina sat on a cot in one of the back rooms, cleaning the Glock with mechanical precision. Her hands moved on autopilot while her brain tried to process everything. Her father was a thief, her mother was a thief. They'd helped steal millions, they'd witnessed murder, they'd run and hidden and died protecting secrets that were still killing people. And now she was trapped in a warehouse with a man who'd bought her like property, hunting evidence that could get them both killed. The door opened. Marco stuck his head in. Boss wants to see you. Seraphina followed him to the main area. Cassian stood over a table covered in maps and photographs. 4 other men stood around him, hard faces, careful eyes, the kind of people who'd killed before and would again. This is everyone I can trust, Cassian said without preamble. 6 people, out of an organization of 50. That's what betrayal looks like. What about the others? One of the men asked. Consider them hostile until proven otherwise. We're on our own. Cassian tapped a photo on the table. An older woman, gray hair, kind eyes. This is Dr. Sarah Chen. She was a trauma surgeon at Northwestern Memorial 26 years ago. The night Antonio Moretti was killed, a woman matching Celeste's description came into her ER. Gunshot wound to the shoulder. Dr. Chen treated her, didn't report it. The next morning, both the woman and Dr. Chen were gone. Seraphina leaned closer. You think Chen helped my mother escape? I think Chen was part of the network. Someone had to help Celeste stay hidden. Someone with medical knowledge. Someone who could move around without raising suspicion. Cassian pulled up another photo. Chen resurfaced 8 years ago, opened a free clinic in Pilsen. Low-income neighborhood. Treats people who can't afford hospitals. Cash only. No records. So we go talk to her. We do more than talk. We make her understand that keeping quiet isn't an option anymore. Cassian's expression was carved stone. If Chen knows where the files are, she tells us. If she doesn't, she tells us who does. No more secrets. No more protection. The truth comes out or everyone dies trying. One of the other men spoke up. Brennan's going to have people watching Chen. The moment we approach her, we're exposed. I know. That's why we're not approaching. We're extracting. Cassian traced a route on the map. Chen lives above her clinic, alone. No security, no family. Tomorrow night, we grab her, bring her here, and we find out everything she knows. That's kidnapping, Seraphina said. Everyone looked at her. Yes, Cassian agreed. It is. What if she doesn't know anything? Then we've wasted time and effort, but we won't hurt her unless she lies. He straightened. Everyone get some rest. We move tomorrow at midnight. The men dispersed. Seraphina stayed at the table staring at Sarah Chen's photograph. Kind eyes. The eyes of someone who'd spent her life helping people. You're really going to do this, she said quietly. Kidnap a doctor. Yes. What happened to you? What turned you into someone who can say that without flinching? Cassian looked at her finally. My father's murder. The lies that followed. 26 years of hunting answers while everyone told me to let it go. He moved closer. You want to know what I am? I'm what happens when someone takes everything from you and expects you to smile about it. I'm what happens when the law can't touch the guilty and the truth stays buried. I'm what your mother created when she ran instead of talking. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair, but it's real. And real doesn't care about fair. His hand came up, almost touching her face, then dropped. You can hate me for what we're about to do, but you'll do it anyway, because you want the truth just as badly as I do. He was right, and that was the worst part. Seraphina wanted answers. Wanted to understand why her entire life had been a lie. Wanted to know if her parents had loved her, or if she'd just been collateral damage in someone else's war. And she was willing to cross lines to find out. I'll help, she said. But after this is done, after we find the files and expose Brennan, I'm gone. I'm not staying married to you. I'm not staying in this life. Fair enough. Cassian's smile was bitter. Assuming we're both alive when it's over. Sat. Dr. Sarah Chen's clinic closed at 9. By 11, the lights in her apartment were off. By midnight, the street was empty except for a few homeless people sleeping in doorways and a bodega that stayed open late. Cassian's team moved like smoke. 2 men on the back entrance, 2 watching the street. Marco and Cassian going up the fire escape while Seraphina waited in the van with the engine running. She watched through the side mirror as they disappeared into darkness. Her heart hammered. Her palms sweated. She'd cleaned the Glock 3 times today. It sat in her lap now, safety off, ready. 5 minutes passed, 10, 15. Then Marco's voice crackled through the radio. We're coming down. Start moving. Seraphina pulled the van around to the alley. The back doors opened. Marco climbed in first, then Cassian, carrying Dr. Chen over his shoulder. The woman wasn't fighting, wasn't screaming, just hanging limp like a sack of grain. Is she hurt? Seraphina asked. Sedated. She'll wake up in a few hours. Cassian laid the doctor on the floor. Drive. Seraphina shifted into gear. Her hands shook on the wheel. She'd just participated in a kidnapping. Actual kidnapping. The kind that put people in prison for decades. But she drove anyway. Through empty streets, past sleeping neighborhoods, onto the highway heading south toward Gary. Behind her, Cassian checked Chen's pulse. She's stable. Good. What if she doesn't know anything? She knows something. People don't disappear for 20 years without a reason. They made it to the warehouse without incident. Carried Chen to one of the back rooms. Laid her on a cot. Cassian zip-tied her wrists to the frame. Not tight enough to hurt. Just enough to prevent escape. Then they waited. Seraphina sat against the wall, watching the doctor's chest rise and fall. In the harsh warehouse lighting, Chen looked older than her photo. Worn down by years of treating gunshot wounds and overdoses and desperate people with nowhere else to go. She's a good person, Seraphina said quietly. Probably. Cassian stood by the door. Most people are. Until they're forced to choose between good and survival. Which one did my mother choose? Both. She tried to survive and do good. That's why she ran instead of testifying. That's why she hid the evidence instead of destroying it. She wanted the truth to come out eventually, just not at the cost of her family's lives. Did it work? She stayed alive for at least 16 years, raised you, kept you safe. Cassian's expression softened slightly. Yeah, I'd say it worked. Chen's eyes fluttered, opened, focused slowly on the ceiling, then the restraints, then the 2 people watching her. Don't scream, Cassian said calmly. We're not going to hurt you. We just need information. Chen's voice was hoarse. Where am I? Somewhere safe, somewhere Brennan can't reach you. At the name, Chen went rigid. I don't know anyone named Brennan. Yes, you do. He's been hunting Celeste Navarro for 26 years. You helped her escape the night Antonio Moretti was killed. You treated her gunshot wound. You helped her disappear. Cassian crouched beside the cot. I need to know where she went, where she hid the files, and I need to know now. I can't tell you that. Can't or won't. Both. Chen's eyes were clear now, sharp. If I tell you, you'll die. Everyone who gets close to those files dies. That's why Celeste spent her life running. That's why I've been hiding. And that's why you should let me go and forget you ever heard her name. Seraphina moved forward. I'm her daughter. Chen's head snapped toward her. Shock cracked across her face. No, that's not possible. It is. My name is Seraphina Vale. My father was Marcus Navarro. He died 10 years ago. My mother disappeared when I was a baby, and I need to know what she was protecting." "Oh God," Chen's voice broke. "She told me if anything happened to her, if anyone found you, you'd be the one to finish it, to expose the truth. But I never thought—" She looked between Seraphina and Cassian. "You're Antonio's son, and you're Celeste's daughter, working together." "We don't have a choice," Cassian said. "Brennan knows we're digging. He's already killed Vincent. He'll come for us next unless we find the files first and make them public." "The files aren't physical. Celeste was too smart for that. She knew paper could be destroyed, seized, burned." Chen's breathing quickened. "She digitized everything, encrypted it, hid it somewhere even I don't know." "Then who does? The only person she trusted completely. The only person who helped her without asking questions or wanting payment." Chen's eyes found Seraphina. "Your father, Marcus. He's the one who set it up. He's the one who knew where the files were hidden." Seraphina's stomach dropped. "My father's dead." "I know. I heard. But before he died, he would have left you something. Some way to access the information. Celeste made him promise. She said if you ever needed the truth, you'd be able to find it." "I don't have anything from him. He left nothing. Just debt and—" Seraphina stopped. Her breath caught. Cassian looked at her. "What?" "The locket. He gave me a locket on my 16th birthday, 2 months before he died." Her hands went to her throat, but the chain wasn't there. "I took it off. Before the wedding. It's back at the estate." "What did it look like?" "Silver, heart-shaped. It had our initials engraved, SV and MN." She looked at Chen. "There was something inside, a piece of paper with numbers. I always thought it was sentimental, maybe an address we'd lived at. I never really looked at it closely." "That's it." Chen's voice was urgent. "Those numbers. They're not an address. They're coordinates, or an access code. Something that leads to the files. You have to get that locket. The estate's compromised. Brennan's people could be there right now." "Then you go in fast. Get the locket. Get out." Chen strained against the restraints. "But you have to do it now, before Brennan realizes what you're looking for." Cassian stood. "Marco, get a team ready. We're going back to Chicago." "Boss, that's suicide. The place is probably crawling with—" "I don't care. We need that locket." He looked at Seraphina. "You remember where you left it?" "My room. Top drawer of the dresser." "Can you get there and back in under 5 minutes?" "Yes." "Then we do this now, before I change my mind." Cassian headed for the door. "Chen, you stay here. If we make it back, we'll let you go. If we don't, my men will release you in 24 hours. Wait." Chen's voice stopped him. "If you get the files, if you expose the truth, Brennan will come after you with everything he has, federal resources, dirty cops, hitmen. You'll be the most wanted people in Illinois." "I know." "And you're still going?" "We don't have a choice." Cassian's expression was granite. "The truth needs to come out, whatever it costs." The drive back to Chicago took 30 minutes. They parked 2 blocks from the estate, killed the lights, sat in darkness while Cassian studied the security feeds on his phone. 3 vehicles I don't recognize, 8 men that I can see, probably more inside. He pulled up a blueprint of the house. "We go in through the east wing, service entrance, up the back stairs. Your room's on the 3rd floor. We get in, get the locket, get out. Total time inside 4 minutes." "What if they're already in my room?" "Then we improvise." He looked at Marco. "You stay with the van, engine running. If shooting starts, you leave without us." "Boss, that's an order." Cassian checked his gun, loaded, safety off. He handed Seraphina hers. "You know how to use this. If someone gets in your way, you shoot them. No hesitation, no mercy. Understood?" Seraphina nodded. Her mouth was too dry for words. They moved through shadows, over the wall, across the grounds. The estate looked different at night, less like a fortress, more like a tomb. The service entrance was unlocked. Someone had already been through it. Cassian went in first, gun raised, movements efficient and silent. Seraphina followed close enough to touch his back. The hallways were dark, empty, their footsteps muffled by carpet. They reached the back staircase, started climbing. On the second floor landing, Cassian held up a hand. Voices. Coming from the main staircase, two men talking quietly. Hasn't been here in 3 days, place is empty. Brennan wants everything searched anyway, files, computers, anything that could... The voices faded as the men moved away. Cassian continued up, third floor, down the hallway toward Seraphina's room. The door was closed but not locked. He opened it slowly, swept the room with his gun. Empty. Go. Fast. Seraphina rushed to the dresser, top drawer, underwear and socks, and there. The locket. Silver chain tangled with other jewelry. She grabbed it, shoved it in her pocket. Got it. Cassian was already moving back toward the door. They stepped into the hallway and came face to face with Thomas Brennan. He stood at the top of the main staircase, 50-something, silver hair, expensive suit. Gun in his hand pointed directly at Cassian's chest. Hello, Cassian. I was hoping you'd come back. Behind him, 4 men appeared, all armed, all professional. Dr. Chen was very helpful once we persuaded her, Brennan continued. His voice was smooth, cultured, the voice of someone used to courtrooms and press conferences. She told us about the locket, about the files, about how Celeste Navarro had been planning this revelation for 26 years. Quite touching, really. A mother's final gift to her daughter. Seraphina's hand moved toward her gun. Brennan noticed. Don't. You'll be dead before it clears your waistband. He gestured with his own weapon. Both of you. Guns on the floor, slowly. Cassian didn't move. You're a federal prosecutor. You can't just murder us. Can't I? I've been covering up murders for 2 decades. What's 2 more? Brennan smiled. Besides, you'll have disappeared. Killed each other in some tragic domestic dispute. Very sad. Very convenient. The files, this, will stay hidden. The locket won't help you without the decryption key. And that key died with your father, Seraphina. Marcus Navarro was very careful, very paranoid. He made sure only he could access the evidence. When we killed him, we killed the only path to the truth. Seraphina's world tilted. You're lying. I wish I was. It would make this easier. Brennan moved closer. Your father was a clever man. He knew we'd come for him eventually. So he set up a system. The locket has half the access code. The key has the other half. But the key was in his head. A sequence. A password. Something he never wrote down. Something he planned to tell you when you were old enough, but he died before he could. Then we find another way. There is no other way. The files are locked behind encryption that would take supercomputers years to crack. Without the key, they're useless. Brennan's gun steadied, which means you're useless. And I don't keep useless things alive. Everything happened at once. Cassian shoved Seraphina sideways, grabbed his gun, fired twice. Brennan's men returned fire. The hallway exploded into sound and muzzle flashes, and the smell of gunpowder. Seraphina hit the floor, rolled, came up with her Glock raised, fired at a shape in the darkness, missed, fired again. Saw someone drop. Cassian was moving, shooting, grabbing her arm, dragging her back toward her room. Window, now! They crashed through the door, slammed it shut. Cassian shoved the dresser against it. It wouldn't hold long. Seraphina ran to the window, 3 floors up, no fire escape, just a sheer drop to gardens below. We don't have a choice. Cassian was already opening the window. There's a ledge. We can make it to the east wing, drop from there. It's only 2 floors. That's insane. So is dying here. He climbed out, stood on a ledge barely 6 inches wide, extended his hand. Trust me. The dresser moved. Someone was ramming the door from outside. Seraphina looked at Cassian's outstretched hand, at the impossible drop, at the certain death behind her. She took his hand, climbed out onto the ledge. The wind was brutal, cold. Her shoes slipped on wet stone. Cassian moved sideways, back pressed against the wall, pulling her after him. Behind them, the door burst open. Men poured into the room. There! Gunfire. Bullets sparked off stone. Seraphina pressed herself flat, kept moving. Don't look down. Don't think. Just move. They reached the corner. The east wing was 10 feet away. Cassian jumped first, caught the opposite ledge. pulled himself around. More gunfire. Something burned across Seraphina's shoulder. Pain exploded. She gasped. "Jump!" Cassian reached for her. "Now!" Seraphina jumped. Her hands caught his, slipped, caught again. He hauled her across the gap. They clung to the east wing ledge, both breathing hard. "You're hit!" "I'm fine." Blood soaked her sleeve, but the pain was distant. Adrenaline made everything feel far away and bright. They kept moving, reached a lower section, dropped to a second-floor balcony, then to the ground, ran across the lawn while bullets chewed up grass and dirt around them. Marco had the van moving before they reached the gates. They threw themselves in. He gunned the engine. Tires screamed. Behind them, the estate receded into darkness. Seraphina collapsed on the floor. Her shoulder burned. Blood spread across her shirt. Cassian was checking her wound with hands that didn't shake despite the gunfight. "Through and through, clean. You'll be fine." "Chen." Seraphina's voice was hoarse. "Brennan said she told him about the locket." She lasted longer than most would. 26 years of silence. She was always going to break eventually. Cassian pulled off his jacket, pressed it against her shoulder. "Hold this. Put pressure on it. He said the files are encrypted, that we need a key my father never wrote down." "I know." "So we're done. It's over. Everything we did was for nothing." Cassian looked at her. His face was streaked with soot and blood. His eyes were hard as stone. "We're not done. We're just getting started." "How?" "Brennan's right. Without the decryption key, your father wouldn't have died without passing it to you somehow. He was too careful, too paranoid." Cassian sat back. "The locket. Let me see it." Seraphina pulled it from her pocket with shaking hands. The silver heart was dented from years of wear. She opened it. Inside, tucked into the tiny space, was a slip of paper covered in her father's handwriting. Cassian unfolded it carefully, studied the numbers. "These aren't coordinates. They're too specific, too precise." "Then what are they?" He looked at her. "When's your birthday?" "July 14th. Why?" "Because these numbers are a date and time. July 14th, 3:27 a.m., the exact moment you were born." He turned the paper over. More numbers on the back. "And this is another date. April 2nd, the day your father died." Seraphina's breath caught. "He gave me the key. In the locket. The dates. They're the sequence. Maybe, or maybe they're part of it. We need to find the files first, figure out where they're hidden. Then we'll know what unlock mechanism your father built." Cassian folded the paper carefully. "Chen said he digitized everything, encrypted it, hid it somewhere. But where? Banks don't keep data that long. Private servers can be seized. Where do you hide something that needs to last decades and remain accessible?" Marco spoke up from the driver's seat. "Cloud storage, anonymous, paid through cryptocurrency. Route it through enough shells and it's untraceable." "In 1998? Before cloud computing was mainstream?" Cassian shook his head. "Marcus Navarro was smart, but he couldn't predict technological evolution. He hid the files somewhere that would survive regardless of how tech changed. Somewhere physical." Seraphina closed her eyes. Tried to think like her father. Paranoid. Careful. Always moving. Never settling. Except once. "The storage unit." Her eyes snapped open. "We had a storage unit when I was a kid. In Cicero. One of those self-storage places. My father rented it under a fake name, paid cash years in advance. I remember because he took me there once, made me memorize the address, said if anything happened to him, I should go there." "You remember the address?" 4217 West Cermak, Unit 237. Came back with sudden clarity, a memory she'd buried for years. "He said there were things I'd need someday. I thought he meant photos, keepsakes, but he meant the files." Cassian grabbed his phone, started pulling up maps. "That facility still exists. It's under new ownership, but the units are the same. Can we get in?" "If the rent's been paid, the unit's still accessible. Question is whether Brennan knows about it." "He doesn't. My father never wrote it down. Never told anyone. Just me." Seraphina's shoulder throbbed. "We have to go there. Tonight. Before Brennan figures it out." Cassian looked at her bleeding shoulder, at her pale face, at the determination burning in her eyes despite the pain. "Marco, change of plans. Take us to Cicero." The van turned, merged onto the highway, headed west into the darkness. Seraphina pressed the jacket harder against her wound. Blood seeped through. But she didn't care, because for the first time since this nightmare began, they were ahead. They had the locket. They had the dates. They knew where the files were hidden. All they had to do was survive long enough to reach them, and pray that her father's paranoia had been thorough enough to keep the truth alive for 26 years. Behind them, Chicago's skyline glittered like broken glass. Ahead, somewhere in a storage facility in Cicero, waited the evidence that could destroy everyone who'd spent decades burying the past. Seraphina closed her eyes, tried to slow her racing heart, but all she could see was her father's face the day he gave her the locket. The sadness in his eyes, the fear, the desperate hope that someday, somehow, she'd understand what he'd tried to protect her from. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered into the darkness. "I'm so sorry it took this long." The van drove on through the night, carrying them toward. The storage facility looked like every other forgotten piece of industrial Chicago. Chain-link fence topped with razor wire, sodium lights casting orange pools across cracked asphalt, row after row of identical metal units stretching into darkness like a graveyard for things people wanted to forget. Marco killed the headlights 2 blocks out. They coasted to a stop near a gap in the fence where bolt cutters had done their work years ago, and nobody had bothered to repair it. "Place looks abandoned," he said. Cassian studied the facility through binoculars. "It's not. Look at the office. Lights are on. Someone's running this operation, even if barely." He lowered the binoculars. "We go in quiet. Get to Unit 237. Get what we need. Get out." "Boss, you're bleeding." Marco pointed at the dark stain spreading across Cassian's side. "You took a round back at the estate." "I'm aware." Cassian's voice was flat. "Doesn't change the plan." Seraphina's shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. The makeshift bandage Marco had applied 20 minutes ago was already soaked through, but the pain kept her sharp, kept her focused. Pain meant she was still alive. They climbed out of the van. The night air was cold enough to burn lungs. Seraphina's breath came out in white clouds. Her hand shook as she checked her Glock. Still loaded, safety off, ready. "You good?" Cassian asked quietly. "No, but I'm functional." Something that might have been respect flickered across his face. "That's all that matters." They moved through the gap in the fence, across open ground where weeds pushed through concrete, past rows of units marked with faded numbers. Hundreds. 150s. 200. Unit 237 sat in the back corner, isolated. The orange paint was flaking. The padlock looked older than Seraphina. Cassian pulled out a set of lockpicks. His hands moved with practiced efficiency despite the blood loss. 30 seconds later, the lock clicked open. The door rolled up with a screech that sounded like murder in the quiet night. Inside, the unit was maybe 10 by 10, boxes stacked against walls, furniture covered in dusty tarps, the accumulated debris of a life spent running. Seraphina stepped in, her throat tightened. This was all that remained of her father's real existence. These boxes, this forgotten space, 26 years of secrets compressed into 100 square feet. "What are we looking for?" Marco asked from the doorway, keeping watch. "Something that can store data, hard drives, disks, USB drives." Cassian started pulling boxes down. "Marcus Navarro hid the files here. We just have to find them." They tore through the unit like archaeologists racing the sunrise. Seraphina opened a box of clothes. Her father's shirts. Worn, familiar. The smell hit her like a punch, Old Spice and sawdust and something indefinably him. She forced herself to keep searching. Next box, photo albums, pictures of her as a baby, a child, a teenager. Her father's face in every frame, but her mother's conspicuously absent, because Celeste Navarro had already disappeared by then, already become a ghost. "Here," Cassian's voice was sharp. He'd pulled back a tarp covering a metal filing cabinet. "This is locked. Different lock than the unit, newer." He picked it in seconds. The drawer slid open. Inside, nestled in foam padding, sat a black metal box about the size of a shoebox. No markings, no labels, just solid construction and a keypad lock on the front. Cassian lifted it carefully. "This is it. This is what he wanted you to find." Seraphina's hands trembled as she touched the box. "How do we open it?" "The dates?" "Try the dates from the locket." She pulled out the paper. Her father's handwriting swam in her vision. July 14th, 3:27, her birthday. She pressed the numbers. 07140327. The lock beeped. Red light. Try the other date, Cassian urged. His death. April 2nd. April 2nd. But what time? He'd collapsed at a job site in the afternoon. She tried to remember what Luca had told her, what time the call had come, when she'd arrived at the hospital. 1400, she whispered. Military time. Her father had been Army. He'd always used military time. 1400 hours. 2 p.m. She entered. 04021400. The lock beeped again. Green light. Something inside clicked. The box opened. Inside lay a single hard drive. Compact. External. With a piece of paper taped to the top. Seraphina peeled it off carefully. More of her father's handwriting. Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm dead. I'm sorry. For everything. For the lies. For the fear. For making you live half a life. Your mother and I thought we were protecting you. Maybe we were just protecting ourselves. The truth is on this drive. Everything Lorenzo Moretti did. Everything Brennan covered up. Every name, every payment, every death. Make it public. Make them pay. I love you. Always have. Always will. Dad. Seraphina's vision blurred. Tears burned hot tracks down her face. She pressed the paper to her chest like it could somehow bring him back. Cassian's hand touched her shoulder. Gentle. The first truly gentle thing he'd done since they met. We have it. Let's go. But before they could move, headlights swept across the facility entrance. Then more headlights. Then more. 5 vehicles. Black SUVs. Converging on the storage facility like sharks smelling blood. Brennan, Marco hissed. He found us. How? Seraphina's mind raced. Nobody knew we were coming here. Chen, Cassian's voice was granite. She didn't break under normal questioning. She broke when they threatened someone she cared about. She would have told them everything eventually, including the storage unit if she knew about it. She didn't know, but she knew your father was careful, knew he'd leave something. Brennan would have pushed until she gave up every location remotely connected to Marcus Navarro. He's been running teams to all of them. This was just the one that paid off. Cassian grabbed the hard drive, shoved it in his jacket. We need another exit, now. The SUVs were spreading out, blocking the entrance. Men poured out, armed, professional, too many to fight. Marco pointed towards the back of the facility. Drainage canal runs behind the property. We can make it there if we move fast. Then move! They ran, down the rows of units, past rusted shopping carts and abandoned furniture. Seraphina's shoulders screamed with every jarring step. Her vision swam, but she kept running because stopping meant dying. Behind them, voices shouted orders. Flashlight beams swept the facility. Dogs barked. They brought dogs. Brennan wasn't taking chances. The back fence was 12 feet of chain link topped with barbed wire. Beyond it, a steep embankment dropped to the canal. Black water glinted 40 feet below. We can't jump that, Seraphina gasped. We'll break our legs. Better than dying here. Cassian was already climbing. His wounded side left blood smears on the metal. Climb, fast. Seraphina grabbed the fence. Her injured shoulder protested. Pain exploded white-hot behind her eyes. But she climbed anyway. Hand over hand, foot over foot. Don't think, just move. She reached the top. The barbed wire tore her jeans, bit into her calf. She didn't care. Just swung over, started down the other side. Gunfire erupted behind them. Bullets sparked off the fence. Marco grunted, stumbled. His hand slipped. Marco! Cassian grabbed for him. Too late. Marco fell backward, hit the ground hard, didn't get up. No! Seraphina froze halfway down the fence. We have to go back. We have to. He's gone! Cassian's voice was raw. Keep climbing! More gunfire. The fence sang with impacts. Seraphina dropped the last 6 feet, hit the ground wrong. Her ankle twisted. She collapsed. Cassian landed beside her, hauled her up. Can you walk? Yes. Lie. Her ankle was on fire, but she'd crawl if she had to. They half ran, half fell down the embankment. Loose dirt and trash slid under their feet. Seraphina's ankle gave out completely. She tumbled, rolled. Cassian tried to catch her. They both went down in a tangle of limbs and momentum. They hit the bottom hard. The canal water was shallow, freezing, stinking of chemicals and rot. Seraphina came up gasping. Her whole body was screaming now. Shoulder, ankle, ribs, everything hurt. Cassian pulled her toward the opposite bank. The concrete embankment was steep, covered in graffiti and moss. He found a maintenance ladder, started climbing. Above them, flashlights appeared at the top of the embankment. Men, dogs, voices shouting coordinates. "They're in the canal! South side!" Cassian pulled Seraphina up the ladder. Her hands were numb. She couldn't feel the rungs, just gripped and prayed she wouldn't fall. They cleared the top, found themselves in an industrial park. Warehouses, loading docks, empty parking lots. Cassian oriented fast. "There. Service road. We follow it east. We'll hit residential streets. We can disappear." But Seraphina's ankle buckled again. She went down hard. I can't run anymore." "Yes, you can." He grabbed her arm, pulled her up. "Marco died to give us this chance. You don't waste it." The words were harsh, but they worked. Seraphina found something deeper than pain, deeper than exhaustion. She found rage. Marco was dead. Her father was dead. Her mother was dead. Everyone who'd tried to protect the truth had paid with their lives. And now Brennan's men were hunting her like an animal. No more running. She took the Glock from her waistband. "Give me the hard drive." "What?" "Give it to me. You're bleeding out. You can barely stand. If they catch us, they'll kill you and take it anyway." Her voice was steady now, cold. "But if I have it, I can make a deal. Trade the drive for your life." "That's not happening." "It is if I say so." She met his eyes. "You've spent 26 years hunting answers. You finally have them. But answers don't matter if nobody lives to tell the story. So you're going to take the drive. You're going to get somewhere safe. And you're going to make sure the truth gets out. And you? I'm going to buy you time." She checked her gun, full magazine. "I'm going to slow them down." "That's suicide." "Maybe, but it's my choice." For the first time since the wedding, Seraphina felt like she had actual control over something. "You bought me, trained me, made me dangerous. Now I'm going to use it." Cassian stared at her. His face was pale from blood loss. His eyes were dark pits. But something shifted behind them. Something that might have been pride. "You're not doing this alone." He pulled his own gun. "We split up. Draw them 2 directions. Whoever makes it out gets the drive to the media. Deal?" "Deal." He handed her the hard drive. "If you die holding this, it's all for nothing, so don't die. You either." They looked at each other for one long moment. This man who'd bought her. This woman who'd become more than leverage, connected by blood and secrets and a shared desperation for truth. Then they split. Cassian went north, drawing fire, shouting to pull attention. Seraphina went east, toward the residential streets, limping, bleeding, but moving. Behind her, gunfire erupted. She didn't look back, just kept going. One step, another. Her ankle was useless. Her shoulder was bleeding again. But the hard drive was secure in her jacket. She made it 3 blocks before a black SUV cut her off. Seraphina raised her gun, fired twice through the windshield. The vehicle swerved, crashed into a parked car. Men poured out. She ran, down an alley, between buildings. Her lungs burned, her vision tunneled. Not much left, not much time. Another SUV, this one cut through a parking lot, headed straight for her. Seraphina dove behind a dumpster. The vehicle skidded to a stop, doors opened. She could hear boots on pavement, getting closer. "Seraphina Vale." Brennan's voice. Calm, cultured, like they were having dinner instead of playing cat and mouse. "I know you're there. I know you have the drive. And I know you're injured. This can end peacefully. Give me the drive. Walk away. Nobody else has to die." Seraphina pressed her back against the dumpster, tried to breathe quietly. Her hands shook around the gun. "Your father made a mistake," Brennan continued. "He thought hiding the evidence would protect you, but all it did was make you a target. Give me the drive and I'll let you disappear. New identity, new life. You'll be free." "Like my mother was free?" Seraphina's voice cracked. "Running for 26 years? Always looking over her shoulder? That's not freedom." "It's better than dying in an alley." "Is it?" She leaned around the dumpster, fired twice. heard someone curse, pulled back as return fire sparked off metal. You can't win this, Seraphina. I have 12 men. You have 1 gun. Basic math. Math doesn't account for stubbornness, Brennan laughed. You're like your mother. She had the same attitude. Thought she could outlast us, outthink us. But in the end, she died alone and forgotten. Is that what you want? My mother's not dead. The words came out before Seraphina could stop them. A hunch, a desperate hope. If she was dead, you wouldn't still be hunting the files. You'd know where they were. Silence. Long enough to confirm she'd hit something true. Celeste Navarro is alive, Brennan said slowly. And she's been watching you your entire life, protecting you from the shadows, making sure Lorenzo's people never found you. Your father was just the decoy, the visible parent, the one who drew attention while your mother stayed hidden. Seraphina's world tilted. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself why Marcus moved constantly, why he kept you invisible. He wasn't running from us. He was running interference, making himself the target so your mother could stay free. Brennan's voice got closer. She's alive. And if you give me that drive, I can take you to her. No, you can't, because if you knew where she was, you'd have already killed her. Smart girl. Brennan sounded genuinely amused. You're right. I don't know where she is, but I know she's watching, and if you die here, she'll come out of hiding to avenge you. That's how I'll finally catch her. So really, you dying serves my purposes either way. Then why are we talking? Professional courtesy. I respect what your parents did. The planning, the execution. 26 years of successfully hiding evidence that could destroy dozens of powerful people. That takes skill. He paused. But it's over now. You're cornered, injured, alone. Give me the drive, live to see your mother again, or die here and doom her too. Seraphina's mind raced. She was out of options, out of ammunition almost, out of strength, but she still had the drive. And as long as she had it, Brennan couldn't win completely. She pulled it from her jacket, looked at the small black device that had cost so many lives. Her father's. Marco's. Maybe Cassian's by now. The truth was on this drive. Everything. Names, payments, murders, proof. But proof meant nothing if nobody lived to share it. I'll make you a deal, she called out. I throw you the drive. You let me walk. No tricks. No bullets in the back. And what's to stop me from taking the drive and killing you anyway? Nothing, but at least I'll die knowing I tried. Seraphina's hand tightened on the device. Is it a deal? More silence. Then, deal. Throw the drive out, slowly. Seraphina took a breath, made a choice that would either save her or end everything. She threw the drive. It skittered across pavement, landed in a pool of yellow streetlight. Brennan stepped out from behind an SUV, picked it up, smiled. Thank you, Seraphina. You made the smart choice. Then he raised his gun. Seraphina saw it coming, saw the lie in his eyes, saw the bullet leaving the chamber in the infinite space between heartbeats. She twisted. The bullet caught her in the chest instead of the head, punched through her like a fist made of fire. She hit the ground. Couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The world was going gray at the edges. Brennan stood over her. I lied. Sorry about that. He turned to walk away. And Cassian Moretti shot him 3 times in the back. Brennan dropped. The hard drive skittered from his hand. Cassian stumbled forward. He was covered in blood. His own. Other people's. But he was alive. He kicked Brennan's gun away, grabbed the hard drive, knelt beside Seraphina. Stay with me. You hear me? Stay with me. Seraphina tried to speak. Couldn't. Blood filled her mouth. You switched the drives. Cassian's voice sounded far away. When you threw it, you threw a decoy. She'd used an old external drive from one of the boxes, close enough to pass in poor light. The real drive was still in her jacket, still safe. Smart, Cassian whispered. So damn smart. Seraphina's vision was fading. Her chest felt like someone had parked a car on it. She tried to breathe, managed a shallow gasp. Ambulance is coming. Cassian pulled off his jacket, pressed it against her chest. I called before the shooting started. They'll be here. You just have to hold on. She didn't want to hold on. She was so tired. Everything hurt. It would be easier to just let go. But Cassian's face was above hers, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked terrified. "Don't you dare," he said roughly. "Don't you dare die. Not after everything, not when we're this close." Seraphina's hand found his, squeezed weakly. "Mother, find her." "I will. I swear I will. But you're going to help me. You're going to survive this." His voice cracked. "You hear me? You're going to survive." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Red and blue lights strobed across brick walls. Brennan wasn't moving, dead or dying. His men had scattered when Cassian appeared. They were alone. "The drive," Seraphina managed. "Get it out. Make them pay. We will. Together." Cassian pressed harder on her wound. "Stay with me, Seraphina. Please, stay with me." The sirens got louder. Paramedics would arrive in seconds. They might save her. They might not. Seraphina looked up at Cassian's face, saw something there she'd never seen before. Fear. Real fear. Not of dying himself, fear of watching her die. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for hating you." "Don't apologize. Just breathe." She tried, managed one more shallow breath, then another. Each one was agony, but she did it anyway, because Cassian Moretti was begging her to live. The man who'd bought her, owned her, trained her to kill, was holding her like she mattered, and maybe she did. The ambulance screeched to a stop. Paramedics swarmed. Someone pulled Cassian away. He fought them, kept trying to reach her. "She's my wife!" His voice was raw, desperate. "She's my wife and I'm not leaving her." They let him stay, held his hand while they worked, while they cut her shirt, applied pressure, started IVs, called out medical jargon that meant nothing to her fading consciousness. "We're losing her," someone said. "No." Cassian's grip tightened. "You're not. She's stronger than all of us. She's going to make it." Seraphina wanted to believe him, wanted to think she was strong enough, brave enough, worth saving. The world went dark, but she could still feel Cassian's hand in hers, and maybe that was enough. Maybe that was worth fighting for. The last thing she heard before unconsciousness took her was Cassian's voice, low, fierce, making promises to someone who might not wake up to hear them kept. "I'll find your mother. I'll expose the truth. I'll burn down everyone who tried to bury it. And when you wake up, we'll finish this. Together. I swear it." Then nothing. Just darkness and the distant sound of sirens carrying her toward whatever came next. White ceiling tiles, fluorescent lights humming, the smell of antiseptic and something deeper, something chemical that hospitals use to mask the scent of death. Seraphina's eyes opened slowly. Everything hurt. Not the sharp agony of fresh wounds, but the deep grinding ache of a body that had survived something it shouldn't have. She tried to move. Couldn't. Tubes ran from her arms. Monitors beeped steadily beside the bed. Her chest was wrapped in bandages so tight she could barely breathe. "You're awake," Cassian's voice. Rough. Exhausted. She turned her head with effort. He sat in a chair beside her bed, still wearing blood-stained clothes. Face unshaven. Dark circles under his eyes so deep they looked like bruises. He'd aged a decade in however long she'd been unconscious. "How long?" Her voice came out as a croak. 4 days. "You flatlined twice in surgery. They said the bullet missed your heart by millimeters. Said you shouldn't have survived." His hands were clasped between his knees, white-knuckled. "But you did." "Brennan?" "Dead. Officially, he died in a shootout with suspected organized crime figures. The FBI is investigating. They won't find anything." Cassian's expression was carved stone. His men scattered. Most are in custody. Some disappeared. Either way, his operation is finished. Seraphina tried to sit up. Pain exploded across her chest. She gasped. "Don't!" Cassian was beside her instantly, adjusting pillows, helping her settle. "You've got cracked ribs, a collapsed lung that they reinflated, and enough stitches to make a quilt. Moving is not advised." "The drive. Please tell me you still have it. Safe? Secure. Copied to 3 different locations." He sat back down. "I sent copies to every major news outlet. The Washington Post, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, CNN. All of them. with authentication from digital forensics experts. The story broke yesterday. And Chicago is burning. Something almost like satisfaction crossed his face. Lorenzo Moretti's legacy is destroyed. The evidence shows he embezzled $40 million from the organization over 15 years. Shows he ordered his brother's execution. Shows he paid Brennan and a dozen other officials to cover it up. Half the city's political establishment is under investigation. 3 judges have resigned. The FBI director is holding press conferences every 6 hours. Seraphina closed her eyes. My father. Is he mentioned? Marcus Navarro is listed as a cooperating witness who died under suspicious circumstances. The media is calling him a hero, someone who spent his life protecting evidence of government corruption. Cassian's voice softened slightly. They're not wrong. And my mother? Silence. Long enough that Seraphina opened her eyes again. Cassian was staring at his hands. The files mentioned Celeste repeatedly, as Antonio's accountant, as the primary witness, as someone who disappeared rather than let the truth die with her. He looked up. But there's no information about where she went. No clue about whether she's still alive. Your father protected that secret even in his documentation. So we still don't know. We know she exists. We know she sacrificed everything to keep you safe. He pulled something from his pocket. The locket. Silver heart-shaped pendant on a chain. The hospital gave me this. It was in your jacket. I thought you'd want it back. Seraphina took it with shaking hands, opened it. The slip of paper with her father's handwriting was gone, but the dates were etched in her memory. The moment she was born. The moment he died. The brackets of a life spent protecting her from truths she'd never asked to inherit. I need to find her, she said. I need to know if she's alive. Then we'll find her, together, when you're healed enough to walk. Cassian stood, moved to the window. But there's something you need to understand. The moment those files went public, you became famous. Seraphina Vale, daughter of the whistleblower who exposed the Moretti corruption. Your face is on every news channel. Your story is being told by people who've never met you. You can't disappear anymore. You can't hide. I don't want to hide. I'm tired of hiding. Good, because I'm going to need your help. He turned back to face her. The organization is fractured. Half my people are in prison or running. The other half don't trust me because my uncle was the one who betrayed us all. I'm rebuilding from nothing, and it's going to take years to clean up the damage Lorenzo did. Why are you telling me this? Because you have a choice now. The real kind, not the forced kind from the warehouse. Cassian approached the bed slowly. Our marriage was a transaction, a business deal wrapped in legal paperwork. You didn't choose it. You were sold into it. But everything's different now. Brennan's dead. The truth is out. You're free to walk away. Get your own life, your own identity. I'll give you money, protection, whatever you need to start over somewhere safe. Seraphina studied his face. The exhaustion, the pain, the carefully controlled emotion. And if I don't walk away, then you stay. As my wife, as my partner. We finish what we started. We find your mother. We rebuild something legitimate from the ashes of Lorenzo's empire. We make sure people like Brennan never bury the truth again. His voice dropped. But it won't be easy. It'll be dangerous, exhausting. There are people who want revenge for what we exposed. People who lost power, money, freedom. They'll come for us. Both of us. So you're offering me a choice between safety and danger. I'm offering you a choice between walking away from this world or diving deeper into it, between forgetting who we are and accepting it. He moved closer. I won't lie to you anymore. Won't pretend this is something it's not. If you stay, you'll be a target. You'll spend years looking over your shoulder. But you'll also be free. The real kind of free that comes from choosing your own path instead of having one forced on you. Seraphina's chest hurt, not from the bullet wound, from something deeper. The realization that for the first time in her life, she actually had control. Real control. Not the illusion of it, not the pretense, but genuine choice. She could leave, take money, disappear, build a life far from Chicago and organized crime and men who solved problems with violence. She could be normal, safe, ordinary, or she could stay with this complicated, dangerous man who'd bought her, trained her, and then nearly died protecting her. She could hunt for a mother who might not exist, She could rebuild something broken. She could choose violence and danger and a life that would never be simple. If I stay, she said slowly, things change. I'm not property. I'm not leverage. I'm your equal, your actual partner. We make decisions together. We face consequences together. No more locked doors, no more control. Agreed. And if we find my mother, if she's alive, you let me decide what happens next. Whether she faces justice or gets to stay hidden, that's my choice, not yours. Cassian's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Your choice. Then I stay. The words came out steady. Sure. Because I'm tired of running, tired of being afraid. You made me dangerous. You made me capable. Now I'm going to use it to burn down everyone who tried to bury my family. Something shifted in Cassian's expression. Relief. Pride. Maybe something warmer. He reached for her hand, careful of the IV lines. His palm was rough, scarred, warm. Partners, he said. Partners, she agreed. For a moment they just sat there, connected by touch and shared trauma and the strange intimacy of people who'd survived hell together. Then the door opened. A doctor walked in. Young, competent-looking. She glanced between them with professional assessment. Mrs. Moretti, good to see you awake. How's the pain? Manageable. Liar. The doctor checked monitors, made notes on a tablet. You're going to be here another week minimum. The bullet did significant damage. You'll need physical therapy, careful monitoring for infection, and probably some therapy for the psychological trauma of nearly dying. I'll consider it. The doctor smiled slightly. I'm going to give you something for the pain. You'll sleep. When you wake up, we'll discuss next steps. She prepared a syringe, injected something into the IV. Warmth spread through Seraphina's veins. The edges of the world softened. Sleep, Cassian said quietly. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise? Promise. Her eyes closed. The last thing she felt was his hand holding hers, solid, steady, real. Set. 3 weeks later, Seraphina walked out of the hospital on her own feet. Slowly, carefully, but under her own power. Cassian waited by a black sedan. Not the Escalade. Something lower profile. Safer. He opened the door for her, an old-fashioned gesture that might have been habit or might have been something else. Where to? She asked as he slid into the driver's seat. Somewhere you need to see. They drove north, out of the city, through suburbs that got progressively smaller and quieter. Eventually, they turned onto a long gravel drive leading to an estate that made Cassian's former house look modest. This is yours? Seraphina asked. Ours. I bought it last week, far enough from Chicago to be safe, close enough to handle business. Security is the best money can buy. No one gets in without our permission. He parked in front of a house that looked more like a modern art piece than a home. All glass and steel and clean lines. Beautiful. Impersonal. It needs furniture, Cassian admitted. Decorating. Whatever makes it feel like people actually live here instead of just exist. You want me to decorate? I want you to make it a home. I've never had one. Don't really know what that looks like. He glanced at her. But you do. You had your father, had Luca before he betrayed you. You know what family feels like. Maybe you can build that here. Seraphina looked at the house, at the man beside her, at the future sprawling out like uncharted territory. Okay, she said, I'll try. They walked inside together. The space was massive, empty, echoing, but through the floor-to-ceiling windows she could see grounds stretching toward forest. Private, peaceful, a place where they could breathe without looking over their shoulders every second. There's something else, Cassian said. He led her to an office off the main room. Unlike the rest of the house, this space was furnished. Desk, computers, filing cabinets, and covering one wall, a massive board covered in photos and documents and red string connecting various points. What is this? Your mother, Cassian gestured to the board. Everything I found in 3 weeks. Bank records, sightings, anonymous tips that came in after the story broke. She's alive, Seraphina, and she's been watching. Seraphina approached the board slowly. The photos were blurry, taken from a distance. but in each one, she could see a woman with silver-threaded dark hair, older, worn, but with the same bone structure as her own face. Where? Montana. Small town near Glacier National Park. She runs a bookstore under the name Sarah Mitchell, lives alone, keeps to herself. But 3 people in town confirmed she matches Celeste's description. He pulled up an address on his computer. I haven't approached her, wanted to wait. Wanted you to be the one to decide if we make contact. Seraphina stared at the address, at the photos, at the evidence of a mother who'd spent 26 years hidden, who'd watched her daughter from the shadows, who'd sacrificed everything for a truth that had finally come to light. I want to see her, she said. I want to know why. Why she left. Why she stayed hidden. Why she never came back. Then we go. Tomorrow if you want. Or we wait. Give you time to heal more. Tomorrow. Seraphina turned to face him. I've waited my whole life. I'm not waiting anymore. The bookstore was called Second Chances. It sat on a quiet street in a town that probably had more bears than people. Mountains loomed in the distance, snow-capped even in summer, beautiful in a way that felt aggressively peaceful. Seraphina sat in the rental car across the street, watching. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break her ribs all over again. You okay? Cassian asked from the driver's seat. No, but I'm going anyway. She opened the door, stepped out before courage could fail. The bookstore smelled like old paper and coffee. Shelves lined every wall. Classical music played softly. A bell chimed as the door closed behind her. Welcome, let me know if you need help finding anything. The voice came from behind the counter. Seraphina turned. Celeste Navarro looked up from a ledger. Their eyes met. Time stopped. Every word Seraphina had prepared vanished. Every question, every accusation, gone, replaced by a crushing wave of emotion she couldn't name. The woman behind the counter went pale. The pen slipped from her fingers. No, you can't be here. You can't. I'm Seraphina. Her voice broke. I'm your daughter. Celeste's hand went to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You look just like I did. When I was young, before everything went wrong. Why did you leave me? The question came out raw, desperate. Why did you let me think you were gone, that you didn't want me? Because wanting you was dangerous. Because loving you made you a target. Celeste came around the counter slowly, like approaching a wild animal. I left you with Marcus because he could protect you, could keep you visible enough to be dismissed as unimportant. I stayed hidden so Lorenzo's people wouldn't connect us, wouldn't realize you were my daughter and use you against me. Dad's dead. He died 10 years ago. I know, I was there. Celeste's voice cracked. Not when it happened, but I went to the funeral, stood in the back, watched you cry, wanted so badly to hold you, to tell you everything, but I couldn't, because Brennan's people were watching, waiting for me to make a mistake. Everything I was told about you was a lie. Not everything. I did leave. I did abandon you, but not because I didn't love you, because I loved you so much I was willing to become a ghost to keep you alive. Celeste stopped a few feet away. Your father and I made a choice. We split up. He took you, kept moving, drew attention. I disappeared completely, became someone else. And for 26 years, I've lived every day knowing my daughter was out there somewhere, thinking her mother didn't want her. Why didn't you come back after Brennan died? After the truth came out, why stay hidden? Because I'm a coward. The admission came out flat, honest. Because I've been hiding so long I don't know how to do anything else. Because I was terrified that if I showed up, you'd hate me for all the years I stole from us. Seraphina felt tears on her own face now. I don't hate you. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I don't hate you. You should. Celeste's smile was bitter. I'm not a good mother. I never was. I made terrible choices. Helped your father and Antonio Moretti steal millions. Witnessed a murder. Ran instead of testifying. I'm not someone worth knowing. That's not your choice to make. Seraphina moved closer. You're my mother. That doesn't disappear just because you did. And I've spent my whole life defined by other people's choices. Yours, Dad's, Luca's, Cassian's. But I'm done with that. I'm making my own choices now. And I choose to know you. I choose to understand who you really are. not who you were forced to become. Celeste stared at her. Then slowly, carefully, she reached out. Her hand shook as it touched Seraphina's cheek. You're real. You're actually here. I'm here. I'm so sorry. For everything. For not being brave enough. For stealing your childhood. For... Seraphina pulled her into a hug, careful of her still healing wounds, but firm enough to matter. Celeste went rigid, then collapsed against her daughter, sobbing. 26 years of fear and regret and loneliness pouring out in broken gasps. They stood there for a long time, mother and daughter, strangers and family, connected by blood and secrets and the strange, painful beauty of second chances. Finally, Celeste pulled back, wiped her eyes. There's someone with you, in the car. I saw him. Cassian Moretti, Antonio's son. Celeste's expression went carefully blank. You're with Antonio's son. I married him. Long story, forced circumstances. But it's become something real. Seraphina glanced toward the window. Cassian was still in the car, giving them space. He helped me find you. Helped expose the truth. He's not his uncle. He's not his father. He's just trying to survive the legacy he inherited. Does he know you're here? He drove me. He's waiting. Then invite him in. If you trust him, I'll trust your judgment. Celeste straightened, tried to compose herself. God knows I have no right to judge anyone's choices after mine. Seraphina walked to the door, gestured to Cassian. He climbed out of the car, approached slowly. When he entered the bookstore, Celeste studied him with sharp eyes, looking for traces of Antonio, of Lorenzo, of all the men who'd destroyed her life. You look like your father, she said finally. I'm told. Cassian's voice was neutral, controlled. I'm sorry. For what my family did to yours. For the fear you lived with. For the years you lost. You weren't responsible. No. But I benefit from it. From the empire built on blood and theft. I can't change that. But I can make sure it doesn't continue. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is a check, $5 million. It's what your share of the money Antonio and Marcus stole would be worth today with interest. It's yours. No strings. No conditions. Celeste didn't take it. I don't want blood money. It's not blood money. It's restitution. You earned it. You paid for it with 26 years of your life. Take it. Use it however you want. Burn it if that makes you feel better. But it's yours. She stared at the envelope, then slowly took it. Thank you. I think. You're welcome. Cassian glanced at Seraphina. I'll wait outside. Give you time. He left. The bell chimed. Silence filled the bookstore. Celeste set the envelope on the counter. He loves you. I can see it in how he looks at you. Maybe. We're still figuring it out. Be careful. Moretti men are dangerous, even the good ones. She paused. But then again, so are Navarro women. Maybe you're a good match. They spent 2 more hours talking, filling in gaps, sharing stories. Celeste told her about the night Antonio died, about running with a baby in her arms, about watching Marcus from a distance, about the terror of waking up every day wondering if today was the day Brennan's people would find them. Seraphina told her about growing up, about Luca's betrayal, about the warehouse wedding, about learning to shoot and nearly dying and choosing to stay in a world that had nearly killed her. When they finally ran out of words, Celeste walked her to the door. Will you come back? She asked. Or is this goodbye forever? I'll come back. Not often. It's not safe for either of us if I visit too much. But I'll come back. Seraphina took her mother's hand. We don't get to have the relationship we should have had. We don't get to fix the past. But maybe we get to build something new, something real. I'd like that. Celeste squeezed her hand. Be safe, be smart, and if you ever need somewhere to hide, you know where to find me. Same goes for you. They hugged one more time. Seraphina walked to the car. Cassian started the engine. As they pulled away, Seraphina looked back. Celeste stood in the bookstore window, watching. A ghost who'd finally become real again. You okay? Cassian asked. Yeah, I think I am. They drove in silence for a while, past mountains and forests and endless sky. What now? Seraphina asked finally. Now we go home. We rebuild. We make something worth protecting. Cassian glanced at her. Unless you've changed your mind. About staying. About us. I haven't changed my mind. She reached for his hand. He took it. I'm exactly where I choose to be. Book. 6 months later, the house felt like a home. Furniture filled the empty spaces. Art hung on walls. The kitchen smelled like coffee and something Seraphina was attempting to cook. Her physical therapy was complete. The scars on her chest were fading to white lines. She could breathe without pain, could run without gasping, could shoot with the same accuracy Cassian had drilled into her. They'd built something together. Not perfect, not easy, but real. The organization was smaller now. Legitimate businesses, security consulting, real estate. Nothing that would attract federal attention. The people who remained were loyal, trustworthy. Marco's replacement was a woman named Julia who'd lost her brother to the old regime and wanted something better. Seraphina had become part of it, not as decoration, not as leverage, as a partner who made decisions and faced consequences and learned that power wasn't always corrupt. Sometimes it was just necessary. She still had nightmares about the warehouse, about Brennan, about the moment the bullet hit her chest. But Cassian had nightmares too, about his father, about Vincent, about watching her bleed out in an alley. They dealt with them together, because that's what partners did. On a Sunday evening in late autumn, they sat on the back patio watching the sun set over the forest. Seraphina had her feet tucked under her. Cassian sat close enough that their shoulders touched. I got a letter today, she said. From Celeste. She's selling the bookstore, moving somewhere quieter. Montana was getting too popular. You going to visit before she leaves? Already booked a flight, next week. She looked at him. Want to come? You sure? I'm not exactly her favorite person. You're my person. That's what matters. She leaned against him. Besides, she asked about you. Wanted to know if you were taking care of me. I told her I take care of myself these days, but you're a decent backup. Cassian smiled. A real smile. The kind that softened his face and made him look almost young. Decent backup. I'll take it. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only came from people who'd survived hell together and come out the other side. Do you ever regret it? Seraphina asked. Buying me. Starting this whole thing. Every day. He said it without hesitation. I regret that your brother sold you. I regret that I made the choice to purchase another human being. I regret that you were forced into this life. He turned to look at her. But I don't regret where we ended up. I don't regret knowing you. And I don't regret choosing to build something with you instead of destroying what we had. Good answer. It's the truth. His hand found hers. You changed everything. You know that, right? Before you, I was just hunting ghosts. Living for revenge. Building nothing. You made me want something more. Something worth protecting. You made me dangerous, capable, free. She squeezed his hand. I'd say we're even. Not even close, but we've got time to balance the scales. They watched the sun disappear behind the trees. The sky turned from gold to pink to deep purple. Stars began appearing, one by one, like promises. Seraphina thought about the warehouse, about standing in that stained dress while armed men watched, about how terrified she'd been, how powerless. She thought about the woman she'd become since then, scarred, complicated, dangerous in ways she'd never imagined. She thought about Cassian, this man who'd bought her and trained her and nearly died beside her, who'd become something more than a captor, more than a partner, something that didn't have a name yet but felt permanent. And she thought about her parents, Marcus and Celeste, thieves and cowards and heroes, people who'd made terrible choices for complicated reasons, who'd loved her enough to disappear, to die, to sacrifice everything. Their legacy wasn't the money, wasn't the corruption they'd exposed. It was her. Seraphina Vale, daughter, wife, survivor. Someone who'd been traded like property and chosen to become something more. I love you, she said quietly, the first time she'd spoken the words aloud. I don't know when it happened, somewhere between the shooting lessons and nearly dying. But I love you, and I'm choosing you. Every day. For as long as we both survive this life. Cassian went very still. Then his arm came around her shoulders, pulled her close. I love you too. Have for a while now. Didn't know how to say it. Didn't know if I had the right. You have the right, we both do, to choose each other, to build something from the wreckage, to be happy despite everything that tried to destroy us. He kissed her then, slow and careful and full of promise, not claiming, not possessing, just loving. When they pulled apart, stars filled the sky, thousands of them, infinite. You know what the best part is? Seraphina said. What? We survived. Against every odd, every enemy, every betrayal. We're still here, still breathing, still fighting. That's not nothing. No, Cassian agreed. That's everything. They sat together as night fell completely. Two people who'd been broken and rebuilt, who'd been forced together and chosen to stay, who'd found in each other something neither expected. Love. Real love. The kind that survived bullets and lies and the weight of impossible truths. In the distance, the house glowed warm against the darkness. Their house. Their home. Their future. And for the first time since the warehouse, since the wedding that felt like a funeral, Seraphina Vale felt something she'd thought was lost forever. Hope. The brutal, beautiful, stubborn hope of people who refuse to let the darkness win. She smiled against Cassian's shoulder, felt him press a kiss to her hair, and knew with absolute certainty that whatever came next, they'd face it together, as partners, as equals, as two scarred, dangerous, impossibly resilient people who'd chosen each other from the wreckage. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.